You don't exist. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowed like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look at better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheap again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the 15th part of What If Deku and Hero Academia joins Power Rangers. Smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Somebody, please, help, Riaz cries, closing her eyes in fear. But as if answering the Crimson Heiress' call for help, the sound of a powerful engine approaching in the distance made everyone stop in a position to turn their heads where the noise was coming from. What is that? It sounds like a motorcycle engine. Before everyone could say anything else, the engine sound was getting louder and closer. Then suddenly, out of nowhere to everyone's surprise, a person dressed in red spandex riding on top of a motorcycle was flying off the school's rooftop and into the back academy. What? Every single person there yelled out in utter shock as they watched the red Dino Fury Ranger's Dino cycle landing on the ground and charging at the white Pterosaurus. Who is that? The Red Ranger, White Pterosaurus said in a shocked tone as he didn't accept this. Red Ranger. The devils repeated what the monster said while looking at him in shock, due to them not understanding what is going on. Dino Fury Cycle, Plasma Blast, Midoriya shouted while his Dino Fury Cycle was firing multiple plasma blasts from its eyes at the white Pterosaurus. Due to his surprise, the white Pterosaurus didn't have time to react and was hit by the plasma blasts, making him scream out in pain as the Red Ranger circles around the monster before stopping in place. Hu, Riaz, Sona, and their peerage members were taken aback by this as the bike stopped between them and the monster. But what mainly caught the devil's attention was the fact that this person in red was giving off the same mysterious energy they felt last night. Then Midoriya hits the acceleration on his bike and rushes forward at the villain, right before lifting to perform a wheelie as he rams the Dino Fury Cycle into the white Pterosaurus. But thanks to the position Midoriya had his Dino Fury Cycle, the Red Ranger rode onto the monster's body like a ramp to propel himself high in the air before drawing his Chroma Fury Saber and leaping off the bike to perform a mid-air backflip. You're mine now, Midoriya shouted as he falls straight down at his opponent while holding his weapon with both hands and channeling one for all into them. SM Mosh, he yelled out loudly to the heavens in a thunderous tone to deliver to downward slash at the white Pterosaurus. When the Red Ranger attacked and made physical contact with the monster, it created a tremendous shockwave of pressure that destroyed a large portion of the ground that left a very wide crack while also blowing the white Pterosaurus away in pain, and leaving a trail of destruction by the gust wind that curves up the ground's surface. The white Pterosaurus flew straight toward the school at high speed with enough focus to turn the villain into a humanoid projectile and slammed right through the wall that destroyed a large portion of the academy's building, which makes the building's debris and dust fly everywhere but still left in school tack. Meanwhile, with this happening, the tremendous shockwave Midoriya reached everyone else in the area with the other students and faculty members. Along with the grunts felt a strong gust of wind pass over them and fall down on the ground with luckily no injuries. The devils were lifted away from the ground due to the powerful wind gale, but luckily they managed to hold their ground a bit and didn't fly that far away from the Ranger. As for Riaz and Sona, the bubbles popped from the powerful air pressure and started to fall on the floor. But before the two pure-blood devils could hit the ground, Midoriya swiftly leaped to their rescue and caught both of them in his arms before landing on the ground. As everything began to settle down, the students, faculty, and devils soon began to recover from the shockwave effect, and saw the aftermath of the Ranger's attack, which shocked everyone there at the display of power, and from the way he made an entrance on his motorcycle and how one sword swing could cause this much destruction, but the energy on it was astonishingly immense. Soon after, the Dino Fury Cycle landed perfectly back on the ground a few feet away from Midoriya, who was in a crouching position while holding on to Riaz and Sona, as both of the girls were still shaken up by this. Then he placed the two girls gently on the ground with them sitting on their knees, before standing right back up to observe the situation around himself as the boy notices everyone staring at him in awe from his previous move. Looks like I made it just in the nick of time, Midoriya said in relief before looking at the two heiresses, who were still staring at him with dumbstruck expressions. Are you girls okay? He asked them. The Devil Kings of the Student Council and Occult Research Club didn't say anything but just nodded back to him dumbly as they were still stunned by what the hero just did to save them. Okay, then that's good to hear, Midoriya said to them with a smile, before making the Dino Fury cycle disappear back to the Morphin grid. This power, it belonged to him and that other one. Ria's thought, as this was the same unknown power she'd felt last night. It's more stronger up closer. Does he have some kind of special sacred gear? What is the source of their power? She was wondering after witnessing the ranger power up close. Who is he? And what is this power he processes? Sona thought suspiciously as she sized the ranger up. Even this close, it's hard to tell what type of being he is, but the power he wields is incredible. Before the two pure blood devils could do anything else, both of their peerage members called out to them. Kaichu, divided by Buchu. Both the student council and occult research club members shouted while rushing over to their kings and Midoriya to see if Rias and Sona were alright. Most be their friends, Midoriya thought while looking at the devils helping up their two friends, before noticing the fallen Tyrannodrones and Henjimens soon beginning to recover. Looks like my work isn't done just yet, he said, which also got the devils' attention on him again. After the ranger grunts got back on their feet and saw the new threat in front of them, they charged at the Red Ranger in an attempt to destroy the hero while completely forgetting about the hostages. Seeing this made Midoriya draw his blade once more and got into a combat stance, as he was ready to strike down his foes to protect everyone. All of you stay back. I'll handle these guys myself, the Red Ranger declared before charging bravely at the enemy, with the young devils, QO students, and faculty members now watching the battle in action. 3 Tyrannodrones and 2 Henjimen were the first to attack Midoriya all at once, but before they could get even close to him, the Red Ranger used his leg muscles to leap straight forward at the group of grunts with blazing speed and takes them all out in an instant with a single slash before skidding to stop in place, as Tyrannodrones and 2 Henjimen then exploded behind the hero. So fast, Baruko stated in awe and added more to their shock. I blinked and it was already over, Rhea said with widened eyes at how incredible that was. They saw the ranger blitz towards the creatures almost in a blink of an eye. It looked like he was phasing through them and finishing them off with a single strike. The Red Ranger continues his charge at the approaching monster and swiftly slashes through each of them in his path with ease, while also blocking a few of their attacks with his sword. Then he cuts a Tyrannodrone on his left side, while also spinning around to block a spear strike from a Henjimen before the Red Ranger grabbed the monster weapon and spin over to the grunt's right side to hit the Henjimen in the face with a right elbow jab that knocks it over. The other grunts around him didn't waste any time and attacked the Ranger, with Midoriya raising the Chroma Fury Saber up to block a Tyrannodrone's scythe-like arm at him and counters with a roundhouse kick to the grunt's gut that pushes the Tyrannodrone away into more grunts, which slows them down a bit, before laying back out of the way from the front to dodge a spear strike at him while also doing a one-handed back to get some distance from the enemy. Midoriya then immediately went back on the offense, with everyone there present watching the Red Ranger in amazement, slicing each grunt down with great swordsmanship skills and agility to evade their attacks around him so easily. His swordsmanship is amazing, Kiba exclaimed in amazement when he saw the technique that the Ranger had. Yeah, he's even adding kicks, jabs, and throws into his swordplay, Tomo commented in agreement as she was liking the Ranger's fighting style. The Ranger was now surrounded by the grunts in a wide circle to carefully keep their distance. But Midoriya decided to take advantage of this situation to his favor, as the Ranger opens the mouthpiece on his Chroma Fury Saber. Let's kick things up a notch, Midoriya said, pulling out a boost key from the side of his belt. Hyper Dino key, ready, he said while holding up the boost key, before unfolding the key into a small knight and inserting it into his saber, then quickly pulled the lever handle up and down to activate the key's power. The Red Dino Fury Ranger then moved his weapon forward in front of himself, while holding the lever handle on his weapon with his left hand before closing and reopening the mouthpiece a few more times again, as white energy was traveling up his right arm. Then suddenly, Midoriya moved his right arm and weapon down to the side for a cool knight-like pose, as the Dino Key's power was finally activated and pieces of armor materializes on his right arm and shoulder with the head of a Ra such as for a right shoulder piece. Hyper Boost, Midoriya shouted while striking a semi-like pose, as this awestruck the devils and humans even more to see the armor appear on him. What did he just do? He just manifests pieces of armor on his arm without the use of magic, Sona yelled out in surprise, upon seeing the armor appear on his arm and didn't feel anything type of magic whatsoever. I saw him putting some kind of key in his weapon to make armor appear out of nowhere, Tsubaki said to her king in a calm tone, but was still taken by surprise at what the Ranger just did too. Then out of nowhere high-pressure steam was released from the Ranger's boost armor, as the Red Dino Fury Ranger grabbed onto the Chroma Fury Saber's lever handle again, then began to open and close the mouthpiece repeatedly, with more high-pressure steam being released from boost armor on his shoulder as Midoriya could feel more of the key's power flowing through him. Orororag. Midoriya howled out a mighty roar as he just finished powering himself up with his body releasing a burst of energy that creates a mini shockwave while also clearing away high-pressure steam, before letting out another unadulterated roar and charging towards the enemy at high speed that it looked like he disappeared from everyone's sight to reappear in front multiple monsters in an instant. Hyper strike, he shouted out while holding his blade in a striking position. The red Dino Fury Ranger then immediately swing his sword horizontally at the grunts to not only take out multiple foes all at once, but also created a massive gust of wind pressure from just the heavy strike alone, which covers a wide area that made dust fly in the air and shatter the surface of the ground, as all spectators braced themselves from being blown by the gale force wind, and all the females screamed and pushed down their skirts to prevent anyone from seeing their underwear as the wind hiked them up. Such power, Riaz yelled with widened eyes at the amount of focus he put into his sword swing. I'm far from done just yet, Midoriya declared as he threw a bunch of mixed spun kicks and slashes at the enemies around that immediately takes them out, before leaping onto the shoulders of Henjamen and rode on top of the grunt like a horse, with Henjamen unable to fight back. The Red Ranger then proceeds attacked each enemy near him with his blade, while riding on top of the Henjamen who were unable to see where he was moving around to as it was unintentionally helping the Ranger. Midoriya soon had enough of his new ride before slamming the hilt of his sword onto the grunt's head takes the Henjamen for good with the grunt collapsing on the ground, as the Red Ranger barrel rolls on his back. The grunts that surround the boy took advantage of this and attacked the downed ranger all at once, only for Midoriya to effectively block each one of the attacks before spiral jumping into the air, which pushes back the Tyrannodrones and Henjamen around him. Then when Midoriya lands on his feet, the ranger grabbed a near Tyrannodrone with his left hand and tosses it into a nearby Henjamen as the two held on to one another before slashing his weapon down on both grunts that cut right through their bodies at the same time with ease. Next up, a Tyrannodrone rushes in for an attack at Midoriya, but he saw this coming and struck the grunt with a swift slash to the chest that cuts the Tyrannodrone's top half apart before turning around to cut down Henjamen with a vertical slash in the same manner. And then the ranger span his body around to cut through 4 more grunts in an instant with a single swing as their body pieces fell on the ground and explosives. Strong, Kaneko commented in amazement, as this person's sword swings cut apart those creatures with great ease. What form of power is this? Akino muttered, in awe of how he dealt with multiple enemies with ease. She wouldn't say it out loud, but the way in which the ranger struck those creatures down without mercy was turning her on a lot. You're going down, the Red Ranger cried out while continuing to cut apart each Tyrannodrones and Henjamen in his way with powerful roaring attacks, thanks to the Hyper Dino Key's boosting effect increasing the Chroma Fury Saber attacking power, as well as slash energy crescents freely with each time he swings his blade around. Those who were present in this battle were unable to look away in amazement and awe at the Ranger's fighting skills he was displaying, as most of the students had their phones out and were recording the whole fight with great interest. Look at how this guy moves. I can't believe there's an actual superhero running around, in Kyoto of all places. This guy is so freaking cool. I wonder what he looks like under that helmet. I bet he's so handsome. I wouldn't mind being saved by him anytime. Damn it. First that bastard Kiba, now we have this guy running stealing all the girls. Matsuda said with a look of jealousy at how cool Midoriya was right now. Yeah, who the hell does this spandex bastard think he is anyway? Madohama agreed to look at the ranger with envy at how he was easily winning over the females at the school. Are you guys shitting me? This is the coolest thing ever. Issei squealed out loudly with stars in his eyes, while, unlike his 2 friends, he fanboying over the fact that a superhero now existed. We have a real-life Sentai here kicking bad guy asses. Incredible. He's fighting those monsters without any fear, Kiyom said in amazement at how the ranger fearlessly fought the monsters. Damn, it's like nothing can stop this guy, Saji said while vibrating in excitement at the battle. This is crazy. To think there's an actual Sentai in the world, fighting against monsters. Eika exclaimed awe and excitement. But it's a shame I can't get an accurate measurement for his size, though I'm sure he's huge down there, she said while smiling lecherously as she imagined how big the Red Ranger junk was. I wouldn't think that's important right now, Eika, Nirayama said with a blush at the lewd comment her friend made, as Kadace nodded in agreement with her own blush too. But yeah, this really awesome seeing a real-life superhero fighting evil monsters and protecting the people in the world as well, along with how amazing he is with a sword, she said while watching the ranger in both awe and disbelief, performing incredible swordsmanship skills, unlike anything she's seen before in her life. Yeah, he must have trained for years to get that skilled, and doing moves like that. Kade sat in with awe, as the two girls have been excited and amazed at seeing the Red Ranger's kenjutsu skills. While the students of Kyo Academy were watching and commenting about how incredible the Red Ranger was in action like those animes they've watched, the devils looked in awe at the young hero's performance. Who is he and where did he come from? Is he a devil like us or something else entirely different? Tsubasa asked the question that was on everyone's minds. He's human, a monotone voice said, making all the young devils turn their distance to Kaneko, who was frozen in place with her eyes widened in surprise as she rarely shows her emotions. The entire group of devils looked at the white-haired girl in confusion at what she just said, wondering what got the normally emotionless girl to freeze up like this. The white-haired girl smelled something very familiar about the ranger. It was a scent she was more familiar with, making her feel at ease even with that unfamiliar power around him. It smelled like a human. Rias had a stunned look on her face as she voiced out her concern. Kaneko, can you repeat what you just said? She asked, wanting to make sure she heard her rook right. Kaneko slowly pointed her finger up ahead at the ranger before she began to speak. That guy dressed in red smells like a human, she said, shocking them. A human? You mean this guy is human? Akino said as her eyes widened from the reveal. But there's no way a human can be this powerful. I mean, look at him, tearing those monsters a new one. Tomo said, pointing at the Red Ranger cutting another foe in half. Well, there are some acceptable strong humans out there who match a high-class devil's power, Momo said with a thinking face, recalling some powerful humans throughout the supernatural world. So this person is that foreign presence that we've all felt last night? Tsubaki asked, turning towards her king who was cupping her chin in thought. It seems so, but I don't understand this. How could a human be giving off such power? Sona said while observing and making her own conclusions over the matter. Kaneko, are you sure that he's a human? Rias asked once more as a confirmation, and the quiet white-haired girl only nodded. Yes, Butchu. Despite that power he's giving off, he smells 100% human. Kaneko replied to her king, making the Crimson Girl even more curious about the ranger. Back at the fight, the Red Ranger noticed that there was only a handful of Tyrannodrones and hengemen left around him before removing the boost key from his weapon, as the armor on his right arm disappears from sight. Time send you guys to the scrap heap, the Red Ranger said before opening the hatch on his Dino Fury battle belt, then grabs the T-Rex Dino key with his right hand and holds it up. T-Rex key, ready, he shouted while unfolding the key into a small knight and inserting it into the Chroma Fury saber, which made the mouthpiece eyes flash up green for a brief moment, before using the lever handle to quickly close and open the mouthpiece a few times. Midoriya then held the lever handle on his weapon forward with his left hand, before closing and reopening the mouthpiece a few times, as power was building up around the ranger before raising his sword up back in a swinging position, with a giant clear red energy projection of T-Rex champion Zord manifesting behind the hero. Then the Red Dino Fury Ranger gathers all of the red energy projection into his blade to form an energy projection on the weapon's blade. T-Rex Fury Strike, Midoriya shouted while swinging his blade down to execute an extremely powerful energy slash attack that takes the form of the T-Rex champion's head, which lets out a mighty roar and leaves a trail of destruction on the ground's surface. The T-Rex champion's head flew around the field like a speeding bullet at the remaining Tyrannodrones and hengemen, and completely vaporized the all grunts in an instant on impact before a huge explosion occurs afterward, which engulfed the Red Ranger in its flames and making everyone there present look away from the bright flames for a brief moment. The onlookers' gazes quickly returned back to the action and were surprised at what they saw when the flames subside. They could see the Red Ranger standing there calmly in a combat position without so much as a single scratch on him, and all the enemies he was fighting were completely neutralized, before shifting his position straight up and moving his weapon down to his right side, a semi-knight pose. The Kyo Academy students and school faculty were now stunned while looking at the ranger with mixed looks, which was shock, awe, and fear that someone just did something impossible with just one attack. Holy crap, Issei was muttering at what he just witnessed, while also unconscious, grabbing onto his left hand with it trembling in pain, as the dragon sealed inside his hand was reacting to the power Midoriya unleashed just now. Amazing, Murayama and Kades both said, gasping in awe, with their mouths hanging open at what they just witnessed. Yeah, it was, Eika said with wide eyes, her glasses slightly hanging down her face before readjusting them back in place. Meanwhile the devils, but mostly Ria's and Sona, eyes widened in shock and bewilderment upon witnessing such an attack from the ranger, even more so when it was proven effective to the point that all of those monsters were finally wiped out afterward. Their peerage members shared the same expression, in complete awe of a human who was able to hold his own and defeat a group of unknown monsters as if he knew what they were and how to stop them. Sweet mother of Satan. I had no idea that weapon of his was so powerful, Rhea said in disbelief but also with a hint of awe in her voice. He's just a human, but you nothing more, Kaneko replied, even though her full attention was directed toward the mysterious teenager. Truth be told, she had no idea what was happening, but she was sure that that young hero before them was not a normal person to pull off such feats. Yeah, but I don't think ever seen anyone whose sword strikes were this destructive, Kiba muttered with a bit of shock from the ranger's attack. Sure, his sword strikes was fast and a bit powerful but was nowhere this destructive like the Red Ranger's. Yeah, let alone a human no less, Momo quietly said in agreement. So this is what that strange power can do, Sona said with a stunned expression. I can hardly believe it, Kaichu, Tsubaki said in a shaky voice while looking at Hiro from afar. Incredible, Rhea and Raruko breathlessly exclaim. That was hot, Tsubasa muttered, slightly blushing. Yes, it was, Akino muttered, putting a hand on her cheek. The way that the ranger fought against the monster was turning her on. Just watching Mr. Red relentlessly attack the enemy makes me wish he was like this with me, she stated with a blush on her face, which made all the devils around her sweat dropped at their friend's usual antics, before turning attention back at the ranger. He's just a human and yet he was able to destroy those creatures without even trying. Also, he's giving off that same mysterious power we felt last night, Rhea's thought as the devil slowly got over her shock and narrowed her eyes in suspicion at this mysterious individual who saved their lives not too long ago. Who is he, and does he know what those monsters are? Unable to hold in the dozens of questions that sprang into her mind all at once, Rhea's quickly walked over towards the Power Ranger to get some answers from him, only to stop in place when Rhea's noticed something in the corner of her eye before widening them in shock. Watch out, Rhea's yelled to the Red Ranger, making him look behind a giant ball of the power of destruction being launched from inside the school, and toward him at high speed. Oh crap, Midoriya shouted before leaping out of the way in time from the giant death ball as it hits a soccer goal, and completely vaporized within a second. Man, that was close. I definitely don't want to be hit by that, he commented before his gaze turned back to the school. Soon the white pterosaurus emerged from the hole it created and had a deep large cut wound across its body while growling in pain with the monster enraged by the ranger's interference again. You damn ranger, why does your kind always have to interfere with our plans? White pterosaurus shouted in rage, which freaked the onlookers to see the enraged monster. Well, it's our job to wreck whatever schemes you and your kind cook up, Midoriya said back with him getting into a combat stance. It doesn't matter either way anymore because thanks to this new power I'm more than powerful enough to beat you without much effort, White pterosaurus said arrogantly with the villain surrounding himself with a deadly crimson aura. Don't be too sure about that, ugly, Midoriya said with a confident smirk, as his body started to generate bio-green electricity which surprised everyone watching this, including the devils. Besides, you're not the only one with tricks, he stated using his quirk at 10% of its power. The white pterosaurus sneered back in response before unleashing another power of destruction sphere to try vaporizing Midoriya, only for the Red Ranger to quickly dodge the death sphere at blazing speed and zoomed straight at the monster like a speeding bullet. However, Midoriya would be caught off guard when the white pterosaurus once more fired off a beam of lightning directly toward the Ranger right after avoiding his last attack, which the Red Ranger was able to react in time by swinging his sword upward that sent the lightning beam in the same direction before it exploded in the sky that creates a smoke cloud that filled the air for a bit. Midoriya continued his advice at the white pterosaurus and swiftly swing his weapon at the monster, as the white pterosaurus slammed his right claw into the Ranger's blade to stop the attack before sending his other claw at the Red Ranger, only for the Ranger to shift his weapon slightly to the monster's claws from reaching him. The two continued their swift exchange of lightning-fast blows at one another, thus resulting in setting off sparks flying in the air from the clash of steel before Midoriya leaped up into the air and slammed his knee into the monster's right cheek, while the white pterosaurus counters with a claw strike to the Ranger's chest. That creates a slight shockwave effect, sending the two of them back a good distance away from one another. I'm not down yet, Midoriya declared before rushing back at his opponent at an even greater speed that leaves a trail of dust and green lightning behind him. Recovering quickly, the white pterosaurus sees the Red Ranger appearing in front of him in a blink of an eye, as Midoriya kicks the monster hard under the chin and sends him into the sky where he was airborne before the Red Ranger hopped into his opponent. Once Midoriya was near his opponent, he stroked his blade down at the white pterosaurus. Not wasting any time, the white pterosaurus used his super speed to not only avoid being cut by the hero, but also get behind Midoriya's back in an instant and attack the ranger, as Hero felt the white Pterosaurus's attack on his back at full force and was sent crashing down on the ground in pain. But it didn't keep Midoriya down for long, as he immediately hopped back on his feet and avoided a wave of demonic lightning from the sky that evaporates the landscape and makes a big explosion by jumping into the air with a flip and landing safely on his feet. The white Pterosaurus then landed back on the ground and started to fire multiple power of destruction spheres at the ranger, with the red ranger reacting fast enough to avoid each of the power of destruction spheres while also rushing at the villain with incredible speed as spheres slammed into the ground that explodes upon impact. Have a taste of what real power looks like, Ranger, White Pterosaurus shouted before unleashing a wave of demonic lightning from his hands at the ranger, who was a few feet in front of him. Midoriya in response dropped to the floor and slid on his knees while leaning his body back a bit to avoid the demonic lightning, before sliding right to the white Pterosaurus and slashing him right in the stomach, making the monster scream from the pain. But Midoriya wasn't finished yet, as the young hero continues to slide right behind the monster and then spun his body around upwards to stand back up for a wide slash to the villain's backside, before moving up close to his foe to deliver more heavy swift slashes onto the white Pterosaurus that greatly dealt some critical damage. The white Pterosaurus wasn't done yet, however, as he fired off a large red and black laser beam from his mouth at Midoriya, who immediately avoided the beam from hitting with incredible ability before the monster turning his head and body all around, completely leveling more of the school building and land around him, as his attack caused many explosions and endless destruction around him before stopping his attack. When Midoriya landed on the ground, he noticed the white Pterosaurus was about to fire another shot at him and planned to dodge the beam to perform a counter-strike. Then he heard multiple screams of terror, which made the ranger look back behind himself to see the group of students and teachers a few feet away from him and right there in the crossfire of the monster's attack. Crap, if dodged then they'll die, Midoriya mentality thought in a panic, as knew what he had to do before immediately pulling out a certain boost key to use. Beam of destruction, White Pterosaurus shouted before unleashing another laser beam from his mouth at the Red Ranger and the other Kyo Academy student body, which freaked everyone out as they cried in great fear. Oh no, the students and teachers, Akino cried out in great concern, as she and the other devil feared the worst of what will happen to the humans in their territory that they were meant to protect. They won't be about to survive against something like, especially with him using Butchu power, Kaneko said in an equally worrisome tone, as they know no human can withstand the Gremory family's power of destruction. Shield key, ready, Midoriya shouted while unfolding the Dino key and inserting it into the saber's mouthpiece to activate the boost key's power, as the armor immediately materialized on his right arm and shoulder. Shield block, he shouted out loud while moving his right arm forward in a defensive position, with the beam of destruction hitting Midoriya's shield as the Red Ranger was strongly standing his ground from the powerful death beam to protect the civilians behind him. Then, after a few seconds of holding off the white Pterosaurus's laser beam, the Red Ranger was slowly pulled back with the feet of his heels digging deep into the ground while leaving a trail on the floor, as he was still doing his best to hold back the attack from reaching the people of this world. Jay just need to hold on for a bit longer, Midoriya said, gritting through his teeth while holding back the laser beam with his shield. Soon after, an explosion went off which made the Kyo Academy residents scream out loudly in terror, with smoke of the blast covering a wide range of the school grounds, as the fire was burning all around as ashes and smoke filled the air, making the devil of the Occult Research Club and student council members worry and concerned to know the fate of the humans and Ranger. The students, they have to be okay, right? Rhea asked with an unsure tone. Let's hope so, or else we'll fear to see the consequences, Sona said with a nod. The white Pterosaurus laughed a little from the devastation he caused and the destruction of the Red Ranger before he stopped himself as the smoke began to clear away, to that not only the Red Ranger had survived his attack but also he managed to protect the other humans of this world from his blast. The Red Dino Fury Ranger was standing a few inches away from behind the Kyo Academy student body before collapsing on one knee, with Midoriya stopping his quirk, as the around them was destroyed but everyone was still safe thanks to the Ranger's efforts. This shocked the entire Orc and student council members. The power of destruction was one of the most powerful and most feared techniques in the underworld. Yet this Power Ranger was about to withstand it and come out of it without so much as a scratch on him. Just how strong was this human? Holy hell, we're still alive. I thought we were done for, but that guy saved us. I don't know who he is, but he's officially my new best friend. Is he okay after taking that attack head on? The Ranger was breathing slightly heavily on one knee, with the shield key's armor disappearing on his right arm as he was deep in thought on how he was still alive after that attack. That was too close for comfort. If it was for my shield Dino-ki, that would have been one pretty nasty blow, Midoriya thought as he rose back up to his feet and began to walk toward the monster. Midoriya had to admit, not many things freaked him out anymore after being a Power Ranger, but that was something else. Whatever this new power, the white Pterosaurus had incredible power, so much so that he really had to get really serious if he wants to win this fight and stop this villain's rampage. This is getting out of hand. I need to finish this before someone seriously gets hurt, Midoriya thought, griping his sword handle hard before stopping a few feet away from the monster. So you survived, huh? White Pterosaurus said with a sneer before he gave the hero a dark grin. Guess I'll have to try even harder with my next attack, he declared while releasing more demonic energy from his body, which made Midoriya get into a defensive stance. It doesn't matter what you try, Pterosaurus. I won't let you hurt the people of this world, Midoriya declared out loud with determination. Try saying that after I kill you and everyone else here with my new power, White Pterosaurus said as he opened his mouth wide open. Beam of Destru, Mosa Blast. A voice yelled out loud as a golden blast of energy hits the White Pterosaurus in the face, not only damaging the monster, but also stopping him from unleashing his attack. Arg! White Pterosaurus cried out in pain while holding onto his face and taking 2 steps back. What the heck? Who did that? A random student asked out loud, as this shocked everyone there watching, expecting Midoriya, who knew who was responsible for that attack. There's only one person who could do that, Midoriya said with a growing grin on his face as he heard a familiar voice screaming again. Hiya! The same voice cried out again as everyone saw the Gold Dino Fury Ranger making his grand appearance, with him flying in at the Ranger villain. The White Pterosaurus then looked up to see the Gold Ranger coming at him but didn't react quick enough in time before getting kicked hard in the head, knocking him to the ground and rolling on the floor a couple of times before stopping in place. After his surprise attack on the villain, Ren used the momentum of his kick to spiral spin his body in the air like a professional gymnastics and landed safely back on the ground right next to his teammate with style. You really know how to make an entrance, you show off, Midoriya said, teasing his friend, as he was very happy to see him. What? Jealous that you can't pull off being these smooth, Ren said back with a grin. Anyway, great job on protecting everyone until got here. Thanks, but what about the Sporix beast you were fighting? Did you defeat him? Midoriya asked in curiosity. No, he ran away as soon as I got the upper hand on him, Ren said with a little irritation in his voice. But we can worry about Rustafa later. Let's focus on the enemy in front of us first, he suggested, getting a nod from Midoriya. Meanwhile, at the same time, the monster roared in pain on the floor with the Kyo Academy student body, occult research club, and student council gazing in awe at the new stranger who appeared out of nowhere like the other one. Who is this guy? Everyone fought together in unison as they began to comment on the Gold Ranger's appearance. Oh my gosh, another Sentai is here, Kade shouted in shock and awe. And he's gold too, Murayama shouted as well while matching her friend's expression. Mama likes what she sees, Eika exclaimed with a pervy grin while lusting at the Gold Ranger. So effing cool, dudes. 2 Sentais in one place, kicking bad guy ass, Issei said while trembling in excitement. Awa, come on. Madohama and Matsuda cried in pure jealousy over the fact they were being upstaged by another ranger. There's another. Just how many of these costumes people are? Sona yelled out in surprise and confusion to see another ranger showing up, with the other members of her peerage having the same shocking expression as their king. Just 2 from what I'm aware of, that is, Riaz said, getting the surprised attention of Sona and her peerage members. Riaz, you know who this other one is? Sona asked, giving her rival a certain look while waiting for an answer. Yes, before the school was attacked by that creature, me and my servants were watching the news and saw these 2 costume heroes fighting a group of monsters downtown. Riaz answered back to her. I see. Let's hope things work out in our favor with the 2 of them here to fight that thing, Sona said with a worried frown. It still won't be easy with the monster using the Butchu demonic powers, Hiba commented with narrow eyes at the villain. I wish we can help them, but we're only just getting in their way, Tsubasa muttered loudly as she felt powerless in this situation. Not only that, but there are always too many witnesses around for us to use our abilities without risk of being exposed, Tsubaki said sharply as she adjusted her glasses. While they were talking, Kaneko sniffed the air a bit before her eyes slightly went at what she just learned from this newcomer. Butchu, Kaneko said, getting the attention onto her. This golden guy smells the same as the red guy, the white-haired girl said, shocking her fellow devils again. Wait, you don't mean he's... Riaz was going to ask until her rook beat her to the question. Human too, Kaneko replied to her king with a light nod. Yes, he is. Also, it looks like he's giving off that same weird power as the red one, she said, making the other devil feel it as well. You're right, but it is much stronger than what the red one has, Akino said, feeling more grid energy off of the Gold Ranger than the Red Ranger. Just who are these two humans and why are they emitting such raw power? Riaz asked with a look of both intrigued and interested by the Ranger's powers. That's something we'll have to figure out when this is over, Sona said as she and the other devils had their attention back on the battle. Back to the attack. The Rangers and Pterosaurus were about to continue their battle. So, what's going on with the Pterosaurus? Because he looks different than what saw early. Ren asked at the villain's new look. I don't know. He was like this when I showed up too, Midoriya said to him, as he was still curious about the monster's new powers. It might have something to do with that power they were searching for, he said before saying something else. Be careful, Ren. Whatever this power he's using now is incredibly dangerous. Okay, Ren said with a nod as the two ready themselves. The white Pterosaurus soon recovered from the blow and glared at the two Rangers. So another Ranger pest decided to join the fun. Lucky for me that I get the chance to destroy two Power Rangers at the same time, he said with a growl. Not today, Lizard Breath, because the only one who's getting destroyed here is you, Midoriya said with confidence, before pulling out a Dino Fury key with his right hand. You were beaten before and you'll get beaten again, Ren added, and while also pulling out a Dino Fury key with his right hand. Just what are they doing? Riaz thought, seeing the Dino keys in their hands as they were about to use them. Blazing Dino key, ready, Midoriya shouted while holding up the armor key, then unfolds it into a small knight and inserts it into the open mouthpiece of his Chroma Fury saber. Then the Ranger grabbed the lever handle on his weapon with his left hand, right before closing and reopening the mouthpiece a few times. Electro Dino key, ready, Ren shouted while holding up the armor key before unfolding into a small knight, right before inserting it into the Mosa blaster, making the fins on the bottom part of the weapon pop up and combine. The two Rangers then moved their weapons into the front of themselves before grabbing the lever handle and muzzle on their weapons with their left hands, with Midoriya closing and reopening the mouthpiece on his sword a few times, and Ren pumping the muzzle on his gun a few times as energy was traveling up both their arms. Some after flames and electricity from their respective users erupted from the two weapons and swarmed around the Dino Fury Rangers' upper chests to manifest the battle armors onto them. Battle armor, the two Dino Fury Rangers announced out loud together as they donned their Dino battle armor. Everyone there watching this was amazed and awestruck at the Rangers' new armor and began to cheer them on, while the young devils were quieter with their reaction to seeing these, but were still impressed nevertheless. Wow, check out their armor, Tomo pointed out in surprise. So they can use multiple armors by using different keys, Akino said with interest as she was liking the Electro battle armor. These is getting even better by the second, Momo said with a little grin. The Gold Ranger then opens up the hatch on his Dino Fury battle belt, then grabs the Mosa Dino key with his right hand before unfolding the key into a small knight and inserting it into his blade to make it more powerful than usual. I'm going to take point, Ren said while pumping the lever on his Mosa blade for it to generate electricity. You've got my back, he asked, getting into a combat stance. Always, leader, Midoriya said while holding up his flamed engulf Chroma Fury saber and also getting into his own combat stance as he used his one for all at 10%. Then the two Rangers charged at their foe together for a double assault. How stupid charging at me like this, White Pterosaurus commented with a mocking laugh while charging up his power for an attack. Tractor beam. The monster fired a crimson tractor beam from his hands to get the approaching Rangers. But Ren and Midoriya stopped the tractor beam by simultaneously performing a cross/attack together to cut the monster's capture beam apart, as they continued their assault with the Gold Ranger making the first move. Mosa Blade. The Gold Ranger shouted while attacking the White Pterosaurus with an electrified right diagonal slash across the chest, right after following up with a thrust to the gut, and then another diagonal slash to the left side before immediately moving out of the way to the left side for Midoriya's turn to attack. When the Red Ranger got in front of the White Pterosaurus, he quickly raised his flaming sword and struck down at his opponent to land a clean hit, which pushes the creature back, all while Ren span back behind him, as Midoriya turned his body to the right to strike the Pterosaurus on its right shoulder. Unfortunately, the White Pterosaurus saw this coming and then shifted his body to avoid the attack, with the Red Ranger falling onto one knee, as Midoriya does a low swing with his sword this time to try and hit the creature, only for the White Pterosaurus to step back to evade getting cut once more before counter-attacking the Red Ranger with his sharp claws coated in demonic energy. But Ren moved behind Midoriya and held his blade over his teammate's head to block the claw full of demonic energy and prevents the White Pterosaurus from hitting the Red Ranger. as Midoriya took advantage of this to quickly strike the white pterosaurus in the chest while standing back up and spun out of the way for Ren to step in for a quick strike at the villain as well, which made the white pterosaurus cry out in pain and anger before moving back a bit to plan for an attack on the Rangers. But before the white pterosaurus could get a chance to make a move on them, the Red Ranger suddenly thrusts his blade forward at him, which made the white pterosaurus block the flamed sword with his right arm, as he felt the burning heat of the blade before pushing the Ranger away by swinging his right arm. The Gold Ranger didn't wait to give him a chance to move as he leaped at the white pterosaurus for an aerial downward slash that damages the monster. Riaz and Sona couldn't help but watch the scene happening before them in astonishment as the two Power Rangers' incredible teamwork and coordinated attacks were working against the white pterosaurus, harming the monster. But how? Why are their attacks working? Riaz thought, along with her peerage members wondering the same thing. What are they using? I have never seen a sacred gear before like the ones those two are using. Sona thought as well with curiosity. Enough of this, you insects. The white pterosaurus shouted out in rage as he was tired of this and fired a lightning beam from his eyes at the Gold Ranger, which successfully hits the Ranger. After getting hit by the eye beam, the Gold Ranger took a bit of damage and skidded backward on the ground before stopping himself in place. All while the Red Ranger stepped in for an attack by swinging his weapon down at the white pterosaurus's chest to stun him for a moment. And then Midoriya spun to the side to grab onto the creature's right arm. I got him. Go for it, Midoriya shouted while struggling to hold the white pterosaurus in place. Ren nodded back before grabbing his MHA blaster's muzzle and pumped it a few times to charge up the gun's power. I won't let you, the white pterosaurus shouted as he fired multiple spheres of the power of destruction from his free hand at the Gold Ranger. Electro Fury Blast, Ren shouted while stepping back and spinning his body for an upward slash to cut through and evade each of the power of destruction spheres. As the Ranger squatted downwards onto one knee and pointed his MHA blaster forward, aiming it right at the white pterosaurus. The Gold Ranger then shoots a bolt of electricity straight toward the white pterosaurus that major damage to the Red Ranger, letting go of him. White pterosaurus cried out in utter pain as tons of sparks flew off his body while taking a few steps backward. D-damn, you annoying Rangers, he growled at the heroes while falling onto one knee and holding his injured chest. That was truly awesome, Saji said, freaking out at the awesomeness of the Rangers. I've never seen anyone execute such moves, Kion said in an impressed tone. Seeing this made everyone cheer the two Rangers on as several people recorded and took pictures of the fight with phones, as even people in the supernatural world watching were amazed by the two heroes' performance and wanted them to join their fractions. It's almost like they're promoted, Riaz pointed out in awe from watching their incredible teamwork. You're right, these armors that they're using greatly increase their strength with the added elemental enhancement of fire and lightning, Sona said, observing the Rangers' movements as they were gaining the upper hand in the battle. The first key we show the Red One use increased his striking power, as the second key increased his defense to stop the creature's laser beam. And these keys are giving them armor with elemental powers, Tsubaki said, getting an agreed nod from her king. It's possible they may have more keys with different abilities up their sleeves, she said, making the devils wonder what else their other keys could do. Not only that, but their teamwork is completely flawless, Hiba said as he and the others were beyond impressed by the Rangers' quarantine attacks. They're good, Kaneko commented as the Rangers regrouped and were about to deliver the final attack on the villain. It's time for the finale, Ren declared as he combined his MHA blade and MHA blaster together to create a new, more powerful weapon. Gold Fury Blade Blaster, ready, he shouted while holding his weapon with both hands. Then let's send him off with a bang, Midoriya shouted in agreement while grabbing the lever handle on his Chroma Fury saber, before closing and reopening the mouthpiece a few times. Ren then held the Gold Fury Blade Blaster forward with the weapon generating tons of electricity from the muzzle's barrel, while Midoriya moved his weapon forward in front of himself to close and reopen the mouthpiece on the weapon a few more times with orange energy traveling up the blade. After a while of charging, the Ranger weapons soon reached their maximum power, with a giant ball of pure electricity was formed on the Gold Ranger's blaster and a burst of flames engulfed the Red Ranger's blade. As two clear giant energy projections of Dimetro Blazing and MHA Razor Zords manifested behind the Dino Fury Rangers before being absorbed into their respective weapons. Then the two Rangers began to execute their special attacks for all to see. Blazing Fury Blast, Midoriya shouted while swinging his saber downwards to fling a large burst of fire at his opponent. Electro Fury Blade Blast, Ren shouted while firing a ball of concentrated electricity at his opponent. The two elemental attacks composed of flames and electricity flew straight at the white pterosaurus at high speed, while taking the forms of the Dimetro Blazing and Mosa Razor Zord's heads, which lets out mighty roars before hitting the ranger villain at full force and making him scream utter agony. This resulted in causing a huge explosion mixed with both fire and lightning that sent another shockwave covering a wide area on the school's campus, causing everyone to cover their eyes and scream from the amount of power that explosion was producing. Soon after, the explosion started to die down before following with silence, as everyone at the school watched the battle screaming drowned down. After the Power Rangers' destructive attack on the creature, they were looking at a big bonfire where the white pterosaurus was once standing at, with everyone watching this, both human and supernatural, amazed or stunned by the Rangers' power. Soon enough, everyone began to cheer loudly, along with the rest of the people watching the live broadcast, and most of the factions in the supernatural world. "Whoa, that was cool," Rhea said in awe at what she saw. "And in a flashy way too," Akino said, placing a hand on her cheek as she enjoyed that monster's final scream. Such a wonderful scream at the creature's finally breath. Rhea's sigh in frustration at her queen's sadistic nature before saying something to her. "Akino, this isn't the time for your usual N." "Wait, hold up," Ren shouted out loud, which cut off the devils and the whole crowd of cheering people. "I don't think it's over," he said, pointing at the flames as he sees something in it. "No way, it can't be," Midoriya shouted with wide eyes. Then, much to everyone's horror, the white pterosaurus emerged from the flames with a monstrous roar, but was also badly injured and steam came off his body as he was beyond angry right now. Not only that, but the pterosaurus' crimson skin color changed back to white as that last attack from the Rangers knocked the power of destruction demonic energy out of his body, which made him lose the new power he steal from Rhea's Gremory. Soon everyone started to freak out again as the battle wasn't far from over just yet. "That's not possible," Sona yelled in disbelief. "Oh, come on. He survived something like that," Rhea complained in frustration. "Their combined attack was seriously powerful, and yet he's still standing," Tsubaki shouted, looking at the fight too from afar. "Just how tough is this thing?" Tiba asked in concern. "You damn power parasites," White Pterosaurus said, breathing heavily from his injuries. "I'm going to make you pay for this." "Make us pay. Get real, lizard lips. You look like you can barely stand." Ren insulted the creature with a cocky tone as he and Midoriya's battle armor disappears from their bodies. "Either it's over for you, Pterosaurus," Midoriya told the creature in a stern tone, with his sword pointed at him. "So don't make these any harder on yourself and give up now," he said, only infuriating the monster. "This isn't over until I say so," White Pterosaurus argued, both before spreading out his wings. "If I can't have those two girls' powers, then I'll trash this entire planet and every stinking human on it," he declared out loud, much to everyone's shock and horror, before taking off into the sky and straight to the city. "He's gonna what?" Midoriya shouted in surprise. "We have to stop him before someone gets hurt," Ren said before quickly taking after the monster. "Hey, wait for me," Midoriya said, following right behind him. "Hey look, they're leaving. Is that monster really going to destroy our world? I don't know, but there's no way I'm missing this Sentai action. Let's go after them to see what happens next." With that said, all the Kyo Academy students and school faculty followed after them to see what will transpire next, leaving the student council and occult research club members behind to think about what that monster said about destroying their world. "What did he mean by trashing our entire planet and every people on it?" Tomo asked, as she wasn't going to like the answer to her question. "My guess is that creature going to eliminate everyone and everything in his path now that he's planned to capture me and Rhea's had failed," Sona theories, as everyone was now worried about that monster. "This is really bad. We have to contact my brother and the other great Satans before it's too late," Rhea said, as she knew that they didn't have the power to stop that monster on their own. "That won't be necessary, because we're already here," a familiar voice said, making all the young devils look up in surprise to see who it was that has arrived in their hour of need. It was Surzech and Graphia, along with the other three great Satans and their army, landing down next to Sona, Rhea's, and their peerage members. Brother, divided by sister, divided by Lord Lucifer, divided by Lady Leviathan. Most of the young devils shouted in surprise to see the leader of the underworld. "Sona," Seraphol cried out while flying towards Sona. "Sister," Sona screeched at the sight of her big sister before Seraphol embraced her in a hug. "Are you all unharmed, Rhea's?" Surzech asked in a concerned voice, seeing how badly injured they are. "Why, yeah, I think just a couple of bruises," Rhea said, as she and the other injuries weren't life-threatening. "How about you guys?" "Everything's hurt a bit, but nothing too serious," Akino said to her friend, as they were mostly okay. "It going to take more than that to bring me down, cuz," Taniko bluntly said with a stone-cold face. "We're fine too, by the way," Tsubaki said as she and the other student council were all right. Apologies for taking so long. We're glad that you were all able to hold on for this long, Grafia said in a monotone voice but overlaid with a strangled gentility as touched Ria's shoulder in a reassuring way, letting her know everything was okay now. But it's unfortunate that we missed out on the good part. Another familiar voice made them turn their heads in surprise to see that Sereorg and Sikvera were there as well. Sereorg looked extremely pleased with watching the battle between the Rangers and the Pterosaurus, but Sikvera was there to calm him down since he immediately wanted to fight against that monster with the two humans who gave off that strange energy from last night, and is now eager to fight them. If two heroes can cause such destructive attacks like that, then he wanted to see if he could tank it without too much problem. Calm down, damn it all. This isn't the time for you to challenge every powerful opponent you see. Sikvera managed to force Sereorg from doing something crazy. Can you blame me? It is great that I can find not one but two individuals with some much hidden power. Our battle could be glorious. Sereorg boasted boisterously as the two humans have just proven his power in some way. He looked really eager like the battle maniac he was. That maybe, but remember our position as devils. Sikvera advised her fellow pseudo-meat-headed devil. Sereorg, Sikvera, you both are here too. Riaz cried out in shock to them here as well. Of course, I couldn't let anything happen to my precious cousin and her friends, Sereorg said to her with a confident grin. When I hear about what was happening in Kyo, I don't everything to rush over and help, he said, giving his explanation. I was with Sereorg at the time, and decided to tag along to provide my assistance as well, Sikvera said, pushing up her glasses, as she was to worry about Riaz and Sona. It's good to see that you all are in one piece at least. Thanks, but we kinda had our hands full, Hiba said awkwardly at how bad things have gotten for them before they arrive. But how long have guys been here? Long enough to see that creature trapped both Sona and Riaz in those bubbles of his. Sikvera replied back to them with her arm folded. We were going to step in to help, but that warrior dressed in red showed up, along with his golded partner, and did us a favor, Serzets explained with their eyes widening from what they heard. And to think the ones who released that mysterious power from yesterday would help save you all and Kyo from these creatures, he said in a grateful tone. While they were in the underworld, the four great Satans heard about what was happening in Kyo, along with bringing up images of just how bad things were getting, knowing that Riaz, Sona, and their peerages wouldn't be enough to handle this threat, with both Serzets and Serafal wanting to send as much aid as they can, even wanting to go and fight these monsters themselves to protect their sisters, even if there was a risk of getting exposed. Yes, I guess we do owe them one, Riaz said with a light blush on her cheeks, remembering how the Red Ranger saved her and her rival not too long ago. My poor little Sona. Don't worry, your big sister is here to save you from those nasty monsters. Serafal gleefully smirked, doing her own form of skinship as she fondled Sona's modest chest. Then once we're done here, we can have some private sister-on-sister action together. Will you stop that? Sona shouted at her while knocking her sister off with water magic and covering her chest with her arms. This is neither the time nor place for your childish nonsense. She's right, Lady Leviathan. We have more pressing matters to attend to at the moment, Grafia said with a tone of profession. Like those monsters who are still wreaking havoc in Kyo, and the two humans that are fighting them with mysterious power in their possession. You knew that they're humans? Sona asked in a bit of surprise. Yes, one of my devices picked up a long spike in power coming from both of them, Ajuka said with a nod while holding one of his inventions. However, the device didn't detect any supernatural of any kind except for human, he said before finishing. The real question is how two individuals from the weakest race can give off such a powerful aura like that, Sikvera asked as this was the question on the devil's mind. For now we should just observe the situation for now and step in if it's too much for these rangers to handle, Serzets suggested as everyone agreed to the idea. Yes, and then I can see if they want to join my show as special guests, Serafal said with eyes sparkling in enthusiasm. Just imaging the thought of magical girl and Sentai working together fighting evil would be so cool, she said, striking a pose with her wand. Please let me die, Sona cried out as she tried to hide her face from the sheer embarrassment. Kyo Town morning. The white pterosaurus was flying above the city and boiling with rage as he was going to take his anger out on this whole planet. Damn those rangers. I'm going to make them for humility me, white pterosaurus said, growling in rage before pulling out a glass vial full of green liquid. I can't believe I've resulted to use this growth elixir that Trakina's army used, but if it means I can kill the rangers then so be it. He then drank the special elixir without hesitation before not too long. The pterosaurus felt something strange happening to his body, and began to grow in size. It didn't take too long for the two rangers with the Kyo Academy students and the school faculty to see the white pterosaurus grew into a giant monster, the size of a goddamn mountain, and land in the city. Soon he lets out a mighty roar as the students panicked in fear while the police were evacuating the people to a safe place. The white pterosaur then shot lightning from his eyes into the city, which caused more panic to the street. "You got to be shitting me," Issei yelled out with his eyes widened at the giant monster rampaging through the city, destroying everything in his path. "What the fuck is this shit? This can't be our real," Kyum said, nervously gulping a large amount of saliva down her throat at what she just seeing right now. "Mommy," Motohama and Matsuda both shouted while hugging each other and crying out to their own mothers in terror. "It's huge," Kade said, gasping in terror at the giant monster. "Really, really huge," Murayama yelled while trembling in fear as if her legs were going to give out. "Hahaha," Eika weakly chuckled nervously as her face had a look of horror on it. "Come on now, this isn't even funny," she said while trying her hardest to not freak out. "We're all going to die," Saji shouted out loud with the other students screaming and commenting about the unfortunate terrible turn of events. "It feels good to be big and bad," White Pterosaurus screamed out loudly before swinging his right arm into a building that destroyed it. "Son of bitch, he grew," Ren said in worry at the destruction before him. "And he's attacking the city. How can this get any worse?" Midoriya asked in panic before something else unexpected happened. The Cacatris-based Sporix beast began to enlarge himself into a giant as well right in the middle of the city as well, which threw everyone for a surprise yet again. "Cock-a-doodle, woohoo," Rustafa screeched out loud while flapping his wings and taking off into the air before firing lasers from its beak at the city buildings that causes more destruction and devastation, which freaked everyone out even more that there are two giant monsters now attacking the city. Everyone at the academy looked down in complete utter horror as the two ranger villains were laying waste to their city with buildings burning on fire and collapsing to rubble, as ashes and black smoke filled the air, making it as if the land itself had hell descend upon it. The once blue sky was turned dark due to the intense flames and smoke and ashes all around, with people screaming and running far away as they were in terror from the giant monsters. On the rooftop of the school, the devils watched in grim as the two giant creatures continued to wreak havoc on the town. Buildings were either destroyed or on fire, and people ran frantically to get away from it. The cops pulled all the stops to take the monsters down with rocket launchers, rifles, Gatling guns, and more. But nothing they do seems to slow those monsters down. What the heck?" Seraphol cried out with widened eyes looking at the monster. "That's a big bird and lizard," Ajuka said with an equally shocked look. "I do not expect that to happen," Falbium commented as he was fully awake to see all the chaos. "This can't be happening right now," Sona shouted, adjusting her glasses to see if she was hallucinating. "To think they had the power to grow into monstrous size. I don't think I've ever heard of any creature capable of doing that," Sareorg said with a serious expression on his face. "Yes, it really is a troubling ability for an enemy to possess," Sikvera said in agreement at how bad things have gotten. "Is that really the same thing we fought not too long ago?" Riaz asked, trying to keep her composure. "Aura, it seems that it is Butchu." Akino giggled, but not in a good way. "It seems so." Kiba slightly chuckled in worry. "Gigantic," Kaneko bluntly said with a dumbfounded look. "Sirzets, it might be best for us to act now before these creatures' rampage escalates beyond Qo." Grafia asked her king, who was quiet this entire time. "Not yet, Grafia. Let's see what these humans can do first with the powers they possess to stop those creatures," Sirzech said with interest as his eyes never left the monsters. "If they start to show signs of struggling, then we'll join in to help them." "Understood," Grafia said in acknowledgement, before her gaze went back to the city. Meanwhile, the two rangers knew they had to act before things got even more out of hand. "This is bad. If we don't stop them, then they'll destroy the whole city along with the rest of the world." Ren said to his partner how bad the situation is right now. "Then it's time we go big as well," Midoriya suggested with his leader knowing what he meant by that. "And I know the perfect Zords that differently help us out here," the Red Ranger said as he brought his Dino Fury Morpher close to his face. "Solon, we're going to need some major backup. Send in the T-Rex champion, Pacha Smash, Tira Freeze Zords." He contacted his robotic dinosaur friend from their universe to summon their Zords. "Wow, my first interdimensional Zord deployment," Solon said in a gleeful tone over the communicator. "Here goes. The Zords are on their way," she said, activating the 3 Dino Zords. Then suddenly out of nowhere, 3 large patrols have been to open up in different parts of the city, with 1 in the sky and 2 near the ground level. This greatly confused, shocked, and bewildered everyone watching this, as they were about to witness something that they'd never seen before. Morphin Grid. Meanwhile, in the Morphin Grid, 3 giant mechanical dinosaurs of a red Tyrannosaurus Rex, dark green mechanical Stygemoloch, and mechanical pterodactyl with a sky blue scheme heard the call as they were turned online and were ready for battle. Then 3 portals opened up near each of them, before the 3 Zords went through the portals as they closes up behind them. While it was traveling through the portal, the 3 Dino Fury Zords all let out various roars, screeches, and grunts as they begin to the exit of the tunnel in the distance. High School DxD Universe, Kyo Town Morning. Back in the other universe, the massive 3 dinosaur Zords that were at least over 30 meters tall come out of their portals and into the city, with the T-Rex champion and Pacha Smash Zords running through the streets and the Tira Freeze Zord flying above the buildings, while loudly letting out roaring or screeching in the process. "Alright, low," Midoriya shouted in excitement to see the Zords in action. "Go get 'em, you guys. Hell yeah, make us proud," Ren shouted at them in encouragement. The sight of the Zords in action only shell-shocked everyone from human to supernatural in this universe in awe, as they see massive robotic dinosaurs emerge from the portals before all the Otakus and mecha fans began squealing and screaming in complete joy at seeing real-life giant robots in person. "Are those giant robots?" Riaz asked with a bewildered and stunned expression, as her peerage members were taken back by the Zord's appears. "I believe it is, Riaz," Surzech said to his sister with a big smile on his face. "It seems that these 2 humans have an answer for this problem," Graphia said as her stoic expression didn't change despite seeing the Zords. "Oh sweet Satan, they're beautiful," Sikvera said while looking at the 3 Zords with hearts in her eyes, but also to see a real-life mechas and a kaiju battle as well. "Oh my Satan, not only are there real-life superheroes but also giant mechas." Seraphal squealed out in excitement as she enjoyed every moment of this. "These is remarkable," Ajuka said in awe while writing down every little detail about the Rangers' Zords. "Now things are finally getting even more interesting," Saraorg said with a grin on his face. "The Zords didn't waste any time as they have gotten to work to save the city and its people." The Tira Freeze Zord zooms around the city at high speed and released an ice beam of cold pressure air from its beak to quickly put out the all fires, and also freeze the burning building in place from collapsing. The Pacha Smash Zord used its hands to smash away any large piece of rubble from the destroyed building to clear a path for the firefighters, police officers, and ambulances to rescue more people, while the baby Pacha Zord hopped out of its mother's chest to help any trapped civilians that this world's law enforcement couldn't get to since baby Pacha was small and powerful. And the T-Rex champion Zord ran towards the 2 Arnager villains and began to open fire on them with the laser guns on its back to get their attention on it. The white Pterosaurus and Rustafa both felt the stinging sensation of laser fire on their bodies, before turning around to huff in annoyance at the 3 Zords. As they were already known something like this would happen, these ranger teams always do this when a monster grows gigantic. "Let's take their overgrown toys back to the chop shop in pieces," Rustafa suggested to his fellow evil monster. "You've just read my mind, Rustafa," White Pterosaurus replied, liking that idea. Then the 2 monsters charged at the T-Rex champion Zord together, with the T-Rex Zord slamming into the white Pterosaurus, who caught the Zord with ease as T-Rex champion Zord used its big jaw to bite down on the monster. The attack didn't do much to hurt white Pterosaurus, so the white Pterosaur tossed the T-Rex Zord aside for Rustafa to swoop down for an assault. "Beak blasts," Rustafa shouted while firing purple laser blasts from his beak-like mouth at the T-Rex champion Zord, making tons of sparks fly off its body from the damage. The T-Rex champion Zord held its ground while roaring from the pain it was in before firing more lasers at the enemy, as they avoided the shoots with the white Pterosaurus using his super speed to quickly attack the T-Rex champion Zord repeatedly in a white blur by slamming his sharp claws onto his opponent. After he was done, Rustafa charged into the Zord battering ram for a headbutt, making more sparks fly off the Zord's body while T-Rex Zord fell to the ground on its side, which breaks the street apart from the fall. "This isn't good. T-Rex champion Zord can't bet them on his own," Gold Ranger said, seeing how bad the Zord was losing. "You're right. He needs the other Zord's help to win this fight," Red Ranger said with a nod, before bringing his morpher close to his face. "Tira Zord and Pacha Zords, the T-Rex Zord need your assets right now." Upon hearing the order, the 3 Zords stopped what they were doing and went to help their comrade in trouble. Meanwhile, T-Rex champion Zord was struggling to break free from the white Pterosaurus's tractor beam as it was binded in place and completely helpless. "Let's see how the Rangers love it when we take one of their Zords from them," White Pterosaurus suggested to his partner. Sounds fun to me. Let's go for it, Mustafa said, loving the idea, as the two were about to unleash their strongest attacks to finish the Zord off. The other Zords came in at the nick of time to save their friend, with Pacha Smash Zord smacking its right boxing glove into the baby Pacha Zord for it to curl into a ball, while launching straight into the White Pterosaurus's face that knocks him back a bit, and releasing T-Rex champion Zord from his binds, as baby Pacha Zord returned back to her mother's chest. But the Pacha Zord wasn't finished with the White Pterosaurus yet, as it hopped into the air with her tail releasing a powerful turbo thrust, making the Dino Zord quickly fly straight at the creature, and started to throw a barrage of super fast hard kicks, creating green mini shockwaves that pushes the White Pterosaurus, with him howling in pain before backflipping off the monster's body, that sends the villain crashing on the floor and the Pacha Smash Zord landing perfectly on the ground. All while, the Tira Freeze Zord swooped down like a fighter jet and opened rapid gunfire at Mustafa, who was being pelted by bullets, with the Sporix beast took a few steps back and screamed in pain. As the Tira Zord got closer to Mustafa, he began to quickly circle around the Sporix beast's body to slash the creature a few times with his sharp wings before the Dino Zord opens its beak to hit the monster with his ice beam that covers most of Mustafa's body in ice and slightly freezing him in place. Seeing made the people watching and most of all the Rangers happy to see, as people were cheering from the battle. Nice, Midoriya shouted in excitement while pumping his fist a little. The T-Rex champion Zord is safe and the enemy is down, he said, watching their Zords regroup with one another. But not for long. It's going to take a lot more than that to finish these creeps off, Ren said, knowing that they're going to need more firepower to win this. Then it's time to go big or go home, Midoriya shouted before opening the hatch on his Dino Fury battle belt, then grabs the T-Rex Dino key with his right hand and holds it up to unfold the key into a small knight. Zords combine, he shouted while throwing his T-Rex Dino key at the T-Rex champion Zord. While being sent in the air, the T-Rex Dino Fury key then started to grow and move around like an actual person, with it landing on the back of the T-Rex champion Zord, which shocked everyone watching this in person or in a different location. The T-Rex Dino Fury key then raised its sword in the sky, which made all the Dino Fury Zords let out loud roars or screeches from hearing the call as they began to start the Megazord formation. The T-Rex Dino Fury key dragged the sword on its shield before leaping high into the air, as the T-Rex champion Zord and Tira Freeze Zord's bodies began to break apart into multiple pieces before joining together to form the Tira Rex Zord. But the transformation wasn't over just yet, as the Pacha Smash Zord began to split its body apart and move towards the Tira Rex Zord, whose legs started to twist at a 180 degrees angle and straighten up its body that takes the shape of a human's body while the drills on the Zords broken away. Then the Pacha Smash Zord's split body parts started to attach themselves onto the Megazord's arms, while the Dino drills reattached themselves on certain parts of the Megazord's body, as T-Rex Dino Fury key lowered itself toward the top of the Megazord's body and turned to its back to reveal a face that was the Megazord's head, before dropping down onto the Megazord's body with its eyes lit up green for a brief moment to complete the transformation. Once the Rangers saw the Megazord finishing its transformation, they pressed a button on their morphers and were engulfed in a beam of bright light before teleporting away into the Megazord's cockpit. Meanwhile, inside of the Megazord's cockpit, the red and gold Dino Fury Rangers transported down into the cockpit while standing on two platforms that resemble their suit colors, with Midoriya on the right side and Ren on the left side. Linked, the two Rangers shouted together in sync while placing their blades into the podiums that were attached to their platforms, as the podiums lit up for a brief moment to connect them to the Megazord. Then outside of the Ranger's cockpit, the Megazord took to the skies at high speed before stopping in place to hover there. Tira Smash Ultra Zord. The two Dino Fury Rangers shouted together in sync with the transformation was complete, while the Ultra Zord released a red aura for a brief moment and struck a combat pose in mid-air. Every single person's jaws dropped from the sheer shock and awe of witnessing the Megazord transformation, as most of the people of this universe cheered even louder now and were looking forward to what would happen next. Tuo Academy morning. Whoa, Tomo yelled out in awe. Holy, Rhea began with wide eyes. Shit. Momo and Raruko finished with their mouths open. This is awesome, Tsubasa said with how cool that was. Are we seeing things? Tsubaki asked in disbelief. Yes, 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 Satan, yes. Sikvera screamed with stars and hearts dancing in her eyes from the Zords combining into an even larger robot, nearly panting at seeing possibly the greatest mechas in the world. only for her to blush in embarrassment when she felt a familiar feeling between her legs. "What the hell?" Falbian commented as he was at a loss for words. "Well, that thing is huge." Seraphol squealed in excitement and shock from the Megazord transformation. "Fascinating. This is truly remarkable," Ajuka said, eyes beaming from inspiration. "Things really are heating up now," Surzich commented in interest, as he couldn't help but smile at what he was watching. Grafia was silent, but her expression shows that she is greatly shocked with her stoic mask breaking. "I'll be damned," Sona said in bewilderment. "Okay, now that was cool," Sarayorg said as his face beamed up from seeing the Zords combined into something powerful. "No way," Kaneko whispered in shock, and she rarely shows any emotions. "They combined into one," Hiba exclaimed with widened eyes. "Unbelievable," Akino muttered in surprise. "Incredible," Riaz mused out with a smile on her face at the sight of the Ultrazord. And it wasn't just the devil stunned in surprise like this, but every other person related to the supernatural world in this universe. Meanwhile, the leader of the fallen angels was having a field day with what he was witnessing before his eyes. "Hell yes, that's what I'm talking about," Azazel shouted while jumping up at the sight of the beasts combining into one robot, as his inner scientist wanted nothing more than to go and find out how the Dino Fury Zords worked, and how he could make a sacred gear version of it. Huo Town morning. Soon after the white Pterosaurus and Rustafa started to recover from the blows the Zords dealt them to see the Tira smash Ultrazord landing on the ground a few feet next to them, as the Ultrazord took a boxing combat stance. "Let's do this together, Ren," Midoriya shouted while taking a boxing stance. "Right," Ren said, macking his stance with Midoriya's. "Even if you from your Megazord, you won't bet us," White Pterosaurus said arrogantly. "Let's go, Rustafa." "Roger that," Rustafa said as he charged at the Ultrazord first and swung its right claw at the robot. But the Tira Smash Ultrazord responded by rushing towards Rustafa at a quick pace and throwing a right uppercut to the Sporix beast's jaw, which not only stops the beast's assault but damages Rustafa and sent him flying back to the ground. The white Pterosaurus then charges at the Tira Smash Ultrazord next to strike at the Reiniger's Megazord with his sharp claws, with the Reinigers saw the attack coming and raised their right leg in response. The Tira Smash Ultrazord mimicked the Reiniger's movements and took a step back to avoid the monster's first strike before raising its right leg to block the second attack, as the Dino Fury Rangers began throwing a barrage of punching with the Ultrazord doing the sum. "Arg!" White Pterosaurus cried out in pain as he was getting wailed on by the Ultrazord's hard jabs. Then the Dino Fury Rangers switched to kicks, as the Tira Smash Ultrazord was now kicking the White Pterosaurus with a fury of kicks that made sparks fly off the creature's body from each strike. "Don't let up for a moment," Ren shouted to his teammate. The Tira Smash Ultrazord immediately ran at the monster before giving one last hard swift kick to his stomach that sent the White Pterosaurus falling down hard on the ground and screaming from the pain. "Gotta keep up those combos," Midoriya shouted with joy. Rustafa took to the air and was now flying above the Ultrazord as he was about to strike. "Beak blasts," Rustafa shouted while firing lasers from his beak at the Tira Smash Ultrazord. But the Tira Smash Ultrazord dodged the laser blasts by also taking to the sky and flew straight at the Sporix beast at high speed, while doing some aerial maneuvers to avoid each shoot taken at them with agile moves before quickly flying past the startled monster with Ultrazord now flying above Rustafa. Then the Tira Smash Ultrazord swooped at its opponent while flying around Rustafa to strike him from every direction and angle with punches, wing strikes, kicks, and jabs as the Sporix beast was crying out in pain from the consecutive attacks. "Smash!" The two Rangers shouted together while throwing a right strong punch with their Ultrazord doing the same to Rustafa, as the monster got hit in the right side of his face. "Jaya!" Rustafa screeched out while crashing to the ground hard and into some fallen building rubble. How do you like that big bird?" Ren shouted at his opponent in a mocking tone, before something hit the Ultrazord hard with the cockpit shaking from the damage. "What was that?" he asked with the shaking stopped. "I don't know, something just hit us," Midoriya yelled back before being hit again, as the heroes were trying to keep their balance from all the shaking with sparks flying around inside the Ultrazord's cockpit. Outside of the Ranger's cockpit, more sparks were coming off of the Tira Smash Ultrazord's body as it was getting hit by an unknown focus before something grabbed onto the Ultrazord and held the robot in place. Then out of nowhere, the White Pterosaurus reappeared out of thin air as the monster used its invisibility to sneak up on the Rangers without them knowing in midair. "You didn't think it was that easy, did you?" White Pterosaurus said before firing lightning at them from his hands. Pterosaurus laser. He shocked them at point-blank range, while the Tira Smash Ultrazord took more damage. "Arg!" Ren and Midoriya screamed in pain while getting shocked by the villain's attack. We're not done yet, Midoriya grunted out as it held his ground. Get off our Zord, you scaly bastard, Ren yelled in irritation. Hiya! The two rangers roared before making their counterattack on the villain by performing left knee jab strikes. The Ultra Zord then immediately knee jabbed the white Pterosaurus in the stomach with the drill on its left kneecap, which hurts the white Pterosaurus, and releases his grip onto them before the Ultra Zord backhanded the monster in the face to push it away a few feet and stun the creature for a moment, as the rangers took advance for another attack. Inside the cockpits, the two Dino Fury Rangers turned around and perform a backflip knee kick with the Tira Smash Ultra Zord doing some, as the Dino drill on its left knee started to spin and generate power. Then the Tira Smash Ultra Zord struck a crushing blow that critically damaged the white Pterosaurus, sending him falling toward the ground and next to Rustafa. I think it's time to end this, Ren, the Red Ranger suggested to his friend. Yeah, now's the time to strike. The Gold Ranger agreed back with the two of them shifting their bodies forward. The Tira Smash Ultra Zord then flew back to perform a loop-de-loop and quickly soared down towards the white Pterosaurus and Rustafa at high speed, as the two hurt Ranger villains were now back on their feet slowly to see the Ultra Zord coming at them before immediately getting punched in the guts hard by the Ultra Zord's fist, creating a powerful shockwave effect that sends the two monsters flying hundreds of feet in the air above the whole city. The Ultra Zord quickly flew after and right past the monsters, as it was about to deliver one final attack on them with everyone watching in anticipation. You mind if I do the honors? Midoriya asked him. Go ahead, Ren replied to him with a smile and nod. It'll be my pleasure, he said, getting a nod from Midoriya. Mega Fury Saber, the Red Dino Fury Ranger shouted before holding up his right in the air. Then suddenly, Via Blue energy appears in the air and manifests into a large gold sword with Midoriya catching the blade in his right hand before taking a stance with the weapon. Tira Smash Ultra Zord. The two Dino Fury Rangers shouted together while taking a certain combat stance with their fists drawn back and upside down, except for Midoriya, who was holding the Mega Fury Saber. The Tira Smash Ultra Zord then freezes its right glove into a block of ice and ignites its left glove with fire from the T-Rex head's mount on its chest. Next, the Tira Smash Ultra Zord flew straight at the two monsters with the thrusters on its back going off to increase the Ultra Zord's speed, as the Dino Fury Rangers' fists glowed in the color of their Ultra Zord with Midoriya's Mega Fury Saber glowing as well. Fusion Ultra Punch. The two Dino Fury Rangers shouted together while throwing a fury of jabs like a boxer. The Tira Smash Ultra Zord started mimicking the Rangers' movements, and then unleashes a series of ice and fire jabs flying straight at the two monsters. The white Pterosaurus and Rustafa were getting slammed by a bombardment of both ice and fire projectiles while the Tira Smash Ultra Zord came in closer to them, before following up with the Baby Patcha Zord jumping out of nowhere and executing a couple of quick jabs on the two monsters, right after moving out of the way for the Ultra Zord to pierce into the Sporix beast and Pterosaurus. After that, the Tira Smash Ultra Zord quickly fell to the ground and skidded on the street floor to come to a stop with its back turned to the monsters, as the white Pterosaurus and Rustafa bodies were sparking tons of electricity from the severe damage. Rarg. The two Ranger villains gave one final cry from the immense pain before finally exploding to death in the sky, as the explosion causes a shockwave, making nearby buildings slightly shake for a few seconds before stopping. Hero Force Victory. The two Rangers shouted together in union while pumping their fists in the air for celebration, with their Ultra Zord striking a victory pose. Upon seeing the two monsters getting destroyed by the Megazord, everybody's jaws dropped as they stared at the outcome of the battle, but then began cheering in celebration, clearly hyped up by the conclusion of this epic giant robot battle. On the sidelines, Kuroka, who was still in her cat, couldn't help but be amazed at how these two humans she just met fought off the monsters in their Ultra Zord. Way to go, Rangers. You truly are unlike any heroes in our world, Kuroka said with a proud smirk on her face, before leaving the area to meet back up with her favorite heroes. Tuo Academy morning. Back to the school. After they watched the Megazord battle from a distance in disbelief, the students murmured or cheered about what they saw during the battle, and it was like those animes they've watched. Holy fucking shit, that was awesome, Issei exclaimed with excitement, as his two perverted friends cried out tears of joy that it was finally over. They won, Murayama and Kades both said, gasping in awe, with their mouths hanging open at what they just witnessed. Yeah, they did, Eika said with a smirk. Just how the fuck are they able to do all this shit like that? Saji said, impressed. Thank God, Kiyomi said in huge relief as she fell to her knees. It's finally over. On the school's roof, the devils were in complete awestruck amazement at the giant monster and robot showdown, with each of them showing different reactions. Riaz and Akino were intrigued by Power Ranger's sudden appearance, mostly Riaz if she wanted to recruit them both into her peerage. Hiba was more curious about the weapons, but mostly their swords. Being the swordsman himself, he would want to take a look at it himself. Kaneko was mostly stoic from the whole thing, with a few surprises now and then, but she thought the baby Pacha Zord was pretty adorable. Sona and her peerage members were curious about the Power Rangers' abilities and wondered how two humans were that strong. Sikvera was fangirling over the Rangers' Zords and Ultra Zord, unable to deny her eagerness at the chance to see it again, and asked the Rangers about them. Sarayor's eyes were filled with burning passion to see how he measures up against Power Rangers, now having a new goal in wanting to challenge the two humans in a fight. And lastly, the four great Satans and other devils were even more curious now about the humans and the weapons they possessed to be able to do something like this. They did it, it's finally over now, Falbium said, now feeling relaxed that it was over. Amazing. In all my years as a researcher and a great Satan, I've never seen anything like this before, Ajuka said with a look of bewilderment, as his inner scientist was screaming in exhilaration to learn about the Rangers' Zord's work. Totally. Those guys really know how to kick things up a notch and take down a bunch of baddies. Seraphol commented out loud in both shock and excitement. I'm definitely going to invite them on my show as special guests, she declared with multiple stars in her eyes, as her pride as a magical girl wouldn't let an opportunity like this slip away. And to think all of these was done by two humans, Surzets commented in interest, with his wife, Queen Graphia, pretty speechless at the sight of the battle, as she had never seen anything like it. Just who are these Rangers? Graphia muttered while looking at the Ultra Zord with curiosity. Hahaha, man, these Rangers really do know how to keep throwing surprises. Sarayorg laughed joyfully at the amazing battle. Now I really want to fight them. I need to find these Rangers and learnable how their meechas work. Sikvera thought, as this was her new personal goal in life now. I never would have imagined things could have escalated to something like this, Sona said, having a hard time processing everything that was happening in front of her. I can hardly believe it myself, Kaichu, Tsubaki said, looking at the fight with a stunned expression. But still, this is pretty awesome to see. Veruko yelled with a grin of excitement. I know, right? It's not every day we get to see a battle like this, Tomo said with a nod. The way they worked together to beat those monsters was pretty impressive, Tsubasa said, clenching her fists in excitement. I loved it when they formed that giant robot to beat them, Momo said, as it was her favorite part of the fight. Yeah, and the way they defeated those monsters was impressive, Rhea said, liking the finishing move of the Ultra Zord. Ara, that was something we didn't see every day. Akino giggled at the giant monster and robot battle. Indeed, I may have two potential servants in my sight, Rhea said, seeing the opportunity to recruit the Rangers. They may be what I've been looking for. May I ask, how are you going to get them to agree in making them your servants? Hiba asked her. I'll figure something out, Rhea said with confidence, as she wasn't going to lose the chance of recruiting two strong humans as her servants. Besides, I can make some pretty good offers for them if they join me. I doubt it will be that easy, Bachu, Kaneko simply said. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, the Tira Smash Ultra Zord began glowing in a bright light before fading away into sparkles, returning back to the Morphin grid and surprising everyone watching. Hey, where'd it go? Seraphol said, looking around for the giant robot. It was just here a minute ago. It seems that our new friends have a way of covering their tracks, Surzets commented, as he and the other devils were now curious to know more about these heroes. Brother, Riaz said to her brother strangely. Nothing, Riaz. You, Sona, and the others should be heading back now before people start to worry about your absence, Surzets said to them, which took the younger devils by surprise. Are you sure, Lord Lucifer? Sona asked the Underworld King. Isn't there anything we can help with these? It's all right, Sona. Just leave this mess to the adults, okay? Seraphol said to her sister. You should use this time to rest and think about today's events as well, Graphia advised them. The younger devils wanted to protest, but if the leader of their race said so, then they had no choice but to listen to them. Very well. Come on guys, let's head back, Rhea said to her servants before they left the roof. We need to leave as well. There's a lot of work to do as well with how badly damaged the school and city are after this attack, Sona said to her servants as they left as well to start repairs. I should be going too. I still have a rating game to get ready for anyway, Sarayorg said as he walked over to Sikvera. Me as well. I need to inform my family about this serious matter, Sikvera said to them, as she used her magic to summon a magical circle for teleportation under their feet. Have a safe trip back, you two, Seraphol said, waving them off. The two young devils said their goodbyes before being engulfed in a bright light and teleporting back to the underworld. As soon as they left, all the older devils' faces turned into more serious expressions as they looked at the aftermath of the battle between the humans and those monsters. Well, that could have gone worse if it wasn't for those humans showing up, Seraphol said, dropping her magical girl persona and sighing in exhaustion. Indeed, this little incident almost if not exposed the supernatural world to the humans, Ajuka said, frowning at the after effect of this attack. We're lucky that things ended up all right, thanks to those two who gave off the strange power we all felt, Falbium said, feeling tired from all of this. Sirzech, shouldn't we try to follow them? Graphia asked her king. Sirzech shook his head. No, let's leave them be for now. It's the least we can do for them since they've saved our little sisters from that white creature. However, we'll start an investigation into those Power Rangers and the ones responsible for this attack immediately, he said with seriousness, as he was going to make the one who was behind this attack pay for harming his little sister. Huo Town morning. After the battle was over, Ren and Midoriya landed in the middle of an alleyway before demorphing out of their ranger forms as they sigh in relief from the battle they just had. We do, Ren. Everyone in this world is now safe, Midoriya said, feeling proud of what they did. Yeah, but we're not done yet, Ren said with a serious look. We need to find Rustafa's Sporix before it's too late. Hearing that made Midoriya immediately remember something important about the Sporix beasts. That's right, Sporix beasts can't be destroyed. They'll just revert back to a Sporix, Midoriya yelled out with widened eyes, which is why we need to find it before he hatches again, Ren said to him. Then the two here ran as quickly as they could to find the Sporix before it was too late. Unknown to everyone else, two members of the United Alliance of Evil watched the entire battle from a hidden location outside of Kuo. One was the ruthless Ammonite-themed cyborg Zeltrax, and the other was the monstrous Knight Void King who was cloned of the original after turning good. Useless fools, Void King growled in frustration over the outcome of this battle. They had one job due and failed to get it done. On top of that, we lost a Sporix beast. He knew his wife wasn't going to be happy about that. It seems that these new rangers that Tommy Oliver has created are a bigger nuisance than we originally thought, Zeltrax said with his own irritation while shaking his fist. But it does not matter to us. There are still other viable assets and useful resources for us to attend in this universe, he stated, getting a nod from his ally. Agreed, one loss isn't enough to slow down our plans. So let's head back, for now, to report to Lord Draken about this world and see if we can conquer it at a later date, Void King suggested as the two villains opened a portal before leaving this universe. Kuo Outer Forest morning. Meanwhile, in the middle of a forest outside of Kuo, the two rangers were searching for Rustafa's Sporix before it hatched again. Man, Rustafa's Sporix sure did fly pretty far, Midoriya said as the two of them were pretty far away from where the battle just had taken place and was looking for the Sporix. Are you sure it's out here? He asked, looking around the forest for Rustafa's Sporix. It has to be, because that's what my morpher telling me, Ren said as he was using his master morpher scanner to track down the Sporix. Even if we do find the Sporix, we don't have anything to properly contain it. Properly contain what, Naya? Kuroka asked while suddenly appearing behind the two heroes without warning, startling them as they turned towards her way. Hey Kuroka, Midoriya yelled out in surprise to see the black Nekashu, who was in her human form. What the hell? You scared the crap out of us, Ren said with a bit of irritation. Sorry about that, but I couldn't help myself, Kuroka said, teasing them with a little giggle before looking at them proudly. You two ready or something else? You protected the city and everyone there from those monsters, and also saved Shiren's life. Thank you both. It was nothing really, Kuroka, Midoriya said with a tiny smile while scratching his cheek at the compliment. We were just doing our duty as rangers, that's all. Speaking of which, how did find us so quickly? Ren asked her with a raised brow. Kuroka looked hesitant to answer at first but raised a finger to draw a few lines in the air, conjuring a symbol. Then Ren felt a sudden tingle on his right shoulder, causing him to adjust his shirt to see an identical marking by his collarbone. What the hell is that? Ren asked while looking at Kuroka, who had an ashamed expression on her face. I may have casted one of my magic spells onto you while you were sleeping last night to connect us, in case we're ever far away or separated, Kuroka explained softly in an awkward manner. What type of spell did you put on him? Midoriya asked her in curiosity. It's a tracking spell that tells exactly where he is whenever I want to know, Kuroka said to them while having a regretful look on her face. I'm sorry for not telling you. Forget it, Kuroka. It no harm done anyway, Ren assured her while putting his shirt back down. Besides, we need to find Rustafa's Sporix quickly before it's too late. he said, remaining them as they resumed their search for the Sporix. You mean that overgrown rooster you both defeated? Hiroka asked in curiosity. And what do you mean by he's Sporix? That's right, you don't know much about Sporix beasts, Midoriya said as he began to explain to the Black Nekashu what they know about the Sporix beasts. You see, even if you defeat a Sporix beast, they ain't completely destroyed. They just revert back to being a Sporix but with even more power. So when Rustafa hatches from his Sporix again, he'll be even more powerful than he was before you beat him, Hiroka said, getting what he was saying with a grim look. It gets even worse than that, I'm afraid, Ren said, taking over while looking at his scanner. After the first Dino Fury Rangers managed to defeat and capture all the Sporix beasts, they tried everything they could to completely get rid of them. But it was impossible since Sporix can't be destroyed, he said, making her eyes widen from the information. Are you serious? Hiroka asked with seriousness. Yeah, Midoriya said with a nod. Sporix can't be destroyed. Sealing them away is the only way to completely stop a Sporix, he said to her. Sound like troubling opponents to deal with, Naya, Hiroka said with narrow eyes. You have no idea, Ren said before the signal on his scanner was getting stronger. This is it. We're close to his Sporix, he said, running ahead with Hiroka and Midoriya right behind him. After a few seconds of running, the three spotted a small purple chunk glowing brightly near a river stream. There it is, the Sporix, Ren said as they run up close to it and look down at the purple glowing chunk. This is a Sporix, Hiroka said, eyeing the thing with disgust. It looks nasty. It is, but a powered-up version of a Sporix, Ren said before being down to pick it up in his right hand. So what are we going to do now? Midoriya asked in concern. We don't have a way to safely seal its way for good. You'll figure something out. You two always do, Hiroka said to them, making the boys smile. Then suddenly out of nowhere, lightning started to go off around the area as a large cloud of pure energy that almost resembles lines of network light that reach out to an endless space that goes on forever appears in the sky above them, which shocked the three as they looked up to the cloud with widened eyes. The fuck? Ren shouted in surprise. It can't be. What is that? Hiroka asked with a stunned look. It's the Morphin grid, Midoriya answered her as he was just as surprised as Ren. But what is it doing here? As Midoriya asked that question, he got an answer as a portal then opens up next for a white, green armory figure to out and float down to them. This was the Green Morphin Master. Who is that? No, what is that thing? Hiroka shouted as the unknown being in front of her was unlike anything she's seen before. In fact, her power feels similar to the power that Rangers were emitting but much more stronger and potent. Hiroka turned her head to the one place where she could get some answer and was about going to ask the Rangers who this being was before them. But the Black Nekashu hazel eyes widened in surprise to see both Ren and Midoriya frozen in place with their eyes widened and jaws hanging from their mounts in complete utter awestruck to see whatever this being was in front of them. Before any of them could say anything, the being was the one to speak to them first. Hello, Rangers. The Green Morphin Master greeted them. Why, you're a Morphin Master. A real-life Morphin Master. Midoriya stuttered in place while pointing his shaking finger at one of the beings responsible for creating the Power Ranger in awe and disbelief. Hiroka's ears stood up straight and looked at them with a confused look in her eyes. Morphin Master, what's that? Hiroka asked the two boys who seems to know more about this than her. A group of ancient beings that studies and protects the Morphin grid, Ren explained to her with admiration in his tone, as he never took his eyes off the Green Morphin Master. But more importantly, they're the ones responsible for creating the Power Rangers. MHA, Hiroka cried out in surprise to learn about the Morphin Masters. The Sporix, the Green Morphin Master said, reaching out her hand to them. Please hand it over to me, and I will safely lock it away where it will hurt no one ever again. She asked them to give the Sporix to her. Ren blinked in surprise before gazing at the Sporix and forgetting he still had it. Sure, here. Take it, he said, holding the Sporix up to her. Then the Green Morphin Master used her staff to make the Sporix levitations out of Ren's hand and to her before grabbing it. Thank you, Rangers. We will meet again soon, the Green Morphin Master said, which confuses them, before she floats back into the portal she come from. Wait, I have questions, Ren called out to her. But it was in vain, as the Green Morphin Master went through the portal with it, and the Morphin grid closed up right behind her, leaving the three of them confused and with tons of questions. Okay, that was something, Hiroka said, breaking the silence, as she looked at the two Rangers who were still processing this. Are two alright? Why yeah, it's just I never thought I'd meet a real-life Morphin Master like that, Midoriya said with a nervous tone, as this was like the time he met All Might for the first time. They're just as amazing in person than in the videos. Yeah, real mysterious, but at least that takes care of the Sporix problem, Ren said as he had thinking about something. But still, how did two past ranger enemies come back to life, and in another universe no less? As Ren was thinking, he felt and heard both his and Midoriya's stomachs growling from hunger, which made Kuroka giggle. "Seems like you both are hungry," Kuroka said to them with a teasing smirk. "I guess you're right," Midoriya said, holding his stomach in embarrassment. "We hadn't had anything to eat this morning." "True, we were so focused on work it must have split our minds," Ren said as his stomach was crying out for food. "I could kill for some pancakes right now." "Oh, bakken," Midoriya said, craving some bakken right now. "I know of this great cafe in the area that serves some good food, and it's nowhere near the devil's territory," Kuroka said to them as she felt hungry as well. "Sounds good to us. You can take us to a spot that no one notices," Midoriya said to her. "All right, Naya." Kuroka nodded as she used her teleportation spell to transport them away to the local cafe she was talking about. But unknown to them, the infinite dragon god Off Eyes was sitting there in a tree while witnessing the events unfold with a stunned look on her face, as if she was someone not too surprised so easily. Power Rangers, Sporix Beasts, Morphin Master, and Morphin Grid. They were all foreign terms to her, as she had never seen a being like the one who appeared from that portal just now, or the energy it was giving off that was similar to the humans. Power Rangers, Off Eyes said to herself, wondering how she was going to convince them to join her, as she doubts anyone else with their powers and weapons would have the same potential as them. They possess surprising strength and power for two humans. They and those creatures they have as well. But they have even more potential, the potential to be one of the strongest in existence. Perhaps even strong enough to get rid of that idiot Red and help me get my home back, she said before leaving back to Kao's brigade base, as she spent all day thinking about the Power Rangers and how to get them on her side. Huo Town morning. Once the three of them made it back to a different part of the city away from the devil's territory and the battle with their enemies, Kuroka hid her Nekashu features and used her power to hide their process again from those who can sense the Rangers' grid energy before they progressed to the entrance of the cafe. Upon entering, they eventually went to a table by the corner. No one was able to see Kuroka if she was going to use her illusion and senjutsu. Ren, Midoriya, and Kuroka then ordered their drinks while also ordering some pancakes, eggs, and bacon. It was very tasty as the Rangers and Kuroka eats it happily, restoring their energy before any more troubles come their way again. Krakoa thought it would be funny to use her foot to tease Ren a bit by rubbing his legs with a cheeky smile on her face, but of course he ignored her and kept on eating, with Midoriya ignorant about what was happening as he eating and writing down more information in his notebook about today's battle. Krakoa giggled before turning her head towards the cafe's TV nearby, with her eyes slightly widened in surprise. "Hey Ren, Midoriya, looks what is on television," Kuroka said, pointing at the corner. "It's about you two." "Huh?" I said before turning my head to where she was pointing and saw the TV as it was displaying the news. However, when the two Power Rangers saw the title of the news and the footage of themselves fighting the White Pterosaurus, Rustafa, and the Foot Soldiers along with the Zord battle, with their jaw dropping in shock, only two words came to mind as the two Rangers watched the news about the incident. "Oh, crap." Ren and Midoriya both cursed at how bad things had gotten. Meanwhile, in different locations throughout the world, every supernatural factions were reacting to the fallout of this attack and wondered who were two heroes responsible for stopping it, and the abilities they possess as they began to investigate about this manner. Huo Town morning. Upon watching the news about the attack on Kuon, Ren rubbed his temple to prevent an upcoming headache from what saw, and Midoriya was calming his nerves from the embarrassment of being on TV. They broadcasted the news about the attack and them fighting their enemies along with the Megazord battle. "Well, looks like we're famous here in this universe now too," Ren said with a sigh while rubbing his eyes. "This will definitely get us some unwanted attention," Midoriya said with a weak voice. "The only good thing to come out of all of this was that no one died. Sure, the city got totally trashed, there was a lot of property damage, and a lot people got hurt from monsters attacking them, but no one died from what the news report said, which was surprising for them since how bad that attack was on Kuo. But hey, none of them were complaining as they were happy that everything worked out in the end. Looks like you both made the news," Kuroka noted with a smirk while looking on Ren's phone. "Oh, and you're both on the social network. There are discussion forums about the Rangers." "What kind exactly?" Midoriya was afraid of asking her. "Some wondering what you two are calling yourselves. Others commenting on your suits and Zords. Wow, and some fan art too," Kuroka answered, making them both faceplant onto the coffee table. "Well, not surprising since we did a Megazord battle here," Ren muttered, lifting his head from the table. Now we have to deal with making sure no one knows about our identity, since no one other than the factions you mentioned can detect our powers, Midoriya said as he picked himself up from the table too. True. Kuroka then stopped for a moment as her eyes narrowed. Kuroka, Midoriya said in confusion. What's wrong? Ren asked as he noticed her expression shifted to something serious. Kuroka quickly drew a symbol before she went into her illusion form, becoming a cat once more, and leaped onto Ren's shoulder. There's a fallen angel approaching this direction, Kuroka said with seriousness in her voice, and it's an extremely powerful one at that. This made both Hero Force Rangers' eyes widen in alert, as they didn't expect anyone to find them so quickly. Before they can answer back to her, the door to the cafe opened as a chime rang off, letting them know that someone had entered the building and began to walk towards them. The three saw a tall man who looked to be in his mid-20s with an average build, black hair, golden bangs, and black goatee, wearing a dark crimson, high-collared trench coat with 2 belts strapped across his waist. He was also wearing steel gray pants and black boots. No, Midoriya thought with a nervous sweat. Don't tell me he's after our powers. Crap, looks like we got another fight on our hands, Ren complained as he was about morph. But something unexpected happened and took the three by surprise, as the man pulled out the chair in front of their table and sat down in it, before picking up a menu and looking over it. He then lowered his head before saying something to them. Is it alright if I can talk to the two of you for a moment? Azazel asked with a laid-back smile. There's some questions I'm dying to ask you both. Ren and Midoriya just looked at one another and blinked dumbfoundingly at how Azazel just casually walked up to them like it wasn't a big deal. Hell, even Kuroka was looking at him strangely with a mix of surprise and skepticism. My Hero Academia universe, high school principal's office morning. Present, back in the MHA world, Ren was telling Nezu, Holo Tommy, and Sayla about his and Midoriya's time in the DxD universe, which made them all interested and shocked to learn that universe had supernatural beings in it, along with the fact that they met 2 past Ranger villains and the Green Morphin Master. Nezu calmly but slowly spit his tea and exhaled in a relaxing demeanor before opening his eyes to speak. That's quite the story you just told me, Nezu muttered after he was done listening to his students retelling him about what he and Midoriya had been up to since their time off of school. Kuroka snuggled into Ren's chest as he told his story about meeting her with the nekishu in his arms. The black spiky-haired boy used all of his willpower to not blush as she felt the 2 soft mounds of flesh pressing against his chest. It didn't help that he could feel her warm breath on his skin and others in the room staring at him for diffident reasons, much to Ren's discomfort. Had he been a lesser man, he may have given in to his urges and taken her right there, but he was a hardened warrior who didn't give in to temptation so easily. Yep, differently added that one to the list of strangest worlds in the multiverse, Holo Tommy commented with a smirk on his face, from the story he just heard. A world where every supernatural being and myth is real, and most humans in that world are completely unaware of it, Sayla said with slight a tone of interest. Fascinating. In a way, it was almost like her old world. Indeed, and it sounded like you two had quite the little adventure, Nezu said, feeling a little envy in his voice, that his student was traveling to other worlds and seeing new things. It sure was, Ren said as his gaze shifted over to the black nekishu who was still holding on to him like a pillow. And I've got the chance to meet new people. He chuckled to himself. Ren, Kuroka moaned as she rubbed herself against his abs through his shirt. I'm bored, Naya, she complained to him, making the boy roll his eyes as he tried to ignore the beauty in his arms at the moment. The two had finished most of the volume when Kuroka entered the room. Neither of them noticed the Nekomata's entrance, which she took advantage of. She smirked as she silently made her way toward the duo, who were entranced by the manga. Really, Kuroka, can't you be mature for one day? Ren exclaimed, with a look of deadpan look on his face. Then maybe you should have stayed home, Sayla asked, a bit annoyed since she knew that the Catwoman can be annoying when she wants to be. A freeloader like you shouldn't complain when all you do all day is lay around the house. It's been days since Kuroka came from her universe and moved into Ren's home. Just like Sayla, Ren's father welcomed the black nekishu in with welcome arms until she returned back to her world, but since then, everyone in the household learned that the yaokai woman had almost zero fear or shame and was super lazy. Every day Ren would wake up to a sleeping, naked nekishu on his bed. She would be positioned in a way that her breast would be rubbing against him or her body in general against his crotch. A lesser man would succumb to her wiles, but the leader of the Hero Force Rangers was far more than that and thus was immune to her seduction. There was even one time when Kuroka was naked around the house that made Kenji pass out on the floor with a nose massive blood and confusing Eri, who was too young to understand why the Catwoman was walking around without any clothes on. This made them punish the Nekishu, but nothing too harshly, as Kuroka was now forced to wear underwear and a bra around the house, much to her discomfort since she didn't like wearing those types of things, with the cat Yaokai maintaining her breasts by using her senjutsu and yaojutsu. All the black Nekishu pretty much does most of the time. We're playing Ren's video games to the point where her playtime in games exceeds his, who owns the game systems, sleeping or laying around the house, being a glutton that eats tons of their food, claiming all the nutrients going straight to her breasts, and never assisting around the house and instead leaves that work to the others, unlike Sayla, who does clean up after herself. After being called out on this fact by Sayla, Kuroka often offered Ren sex as a means of getting out of it, which was immediately shot down by said boy. "How rude of you," Kuroka complained while shooting a pouting expression. "I have you know I've been doing more than just laying around like some lazy bum. I've been taking good care of Eri when Ren is busy with other things, unlike you who does nothing but read books all day," she said with a smirk, which made the Etheria's eye twitch in annoyance. As much as Kuroka hated to admit it, Sayla's body rivaled if not exceeded her own. She was slightly more well endowed than she was and had a tick-ass kind of made her feel insecure. But luckily Nekishu's breasts were slightly bigger than Etherius's, which she uses to her average to get Ren's attention, much to Sayla's annoyance. "At least I'm well educated, unlike you and your tiny little kitty brain," Sayla said back with her own smirk, which only ticked the Nekishu off. "Why, you little," Kuroka said in annoyance. "Enough, the both of you," Ren said, stopping them from doing something stupid. "Remember, no fighting with each other," he warned them. "Sorry," the two women said in an apologetic tone. "My apology for saying this, master, but I really don't like that cat." Sayla spoke blankly in her stoic expression, which made Kuroka giggle. "I love you too, Sayla," Kuroka said with a teasing tone, making Holo Tommy and Nezu chuckle in amusement, and with Ren reached out with one hand to pat his demon and Yaokai comfortingly on their bare shoulders, making Sayla lower her head to him with a tiny smile, and Kuroka smile in happiness as she hugged him even tighter. This made the boy sigh a bit, as Ren would always hear these two sometimes fighting with each other when they were at home. To be honest, it was quite annoying at times, with his father awkwardly trying to ignore the whole thing and Eri finding their arguments to be funny. But despite their bickering, Kuroka and Sayla don't truly hate one another, as they do show signs of cooperating with each other when the situation calls for it, or if it has something to do with Ren and his friend or family. As entertaining as this is to watch, I believe that's not all there is to your story just yet, is it? Nezu said, sipping his tea with ease. "What happened after encouraging the fallen angel?" he asked. Ren then pulled Kuroka off his leap, much to her disappointment with her standing behind him, before going back into his story about his and Midoriya's time in the other world. High School DxD Universe, local cafe morning. Flashback. If things weren't weird enough today, then it already was now. Then they didn't want to know. But it seems like it did with everything that has transpired the last few minutes, with Azazel making his appearance in front of the Rangers and Kuroka. Ren and Midoriya thought they were going to be fighting another fallen angel, who is the man sitting across from them, but instead, Azazel was drinking a beverage in a relaxed manner. Well, the two Rangers were silently staring strangely at the fallen angel, while the Nekishu, who is in her illusion form, perched by the window as her guard, was still up the entire time around the man. The man didn't seem hostile, as he didn't attack them just yet, but they could never be sure. Anyone who just walked up to them the way he did was suspicious. Who would have thought that a fallen angel would enjoy normal things that a human does? Midoriya commented with a bit of interest. Who knew that even fallen angels can act normal? Ren had similar thoughts to his teammate. At first, the two Rangers thought fallen angels were bloodthirsty, sadistic, and mad beings, but after meeting this guy, turns out not all fallen angels are bad. The boys learn that from Kuroka, since she is the only devil they know who is actually kind to them. When Azazel first confronted them, Kuroka immediately sensed he was a fallen angel, which got the boys on guard until Azazel suddenly and surprisingly offered if they were to talk about something with him. This surprised Midoriya and Ren, as they didn't expect that from the man. However, it was going to take much more than that to get their good side. But still, we can't take any chances, Ren thought to himself, as they cautiously took a step back and glared at him before pulling out the weapons they used today at the man. Azazel noticed this and immediately raised his hands up in a peaceful manner. "Wow, take it easy, kids. I'm not here for a fight," he said to them. "Sorry, but that's a little hard for us to believe since you're not human and you managed to find us after we just got done fighting," Midoriya said, feeling a little tense being around the man. "Now what do you want with us, fallen angel? If you're here to recruit us to join your side, then forget it. We're not interested in getting involved with any of the factions," Ren said, eyeing him with a serious expression. Heh, you're pretty sharp humans to tell that I'm a fallen angel. And I'm not here to get you to join my side, even though it would be awesome to have my very own personal Sentai team, Azazel said with a chuckle before he turned serious. As I said before, I'm only here to talk, not fight. Midoriya and Ren looked at each other for a moment before lowering and sitting back down in their chairs, but were still wary of the man, as Kuroka still was looking at the fallen angel suspiciously. Alright, fine. But try another thing, fun, and we're doing this, Ren warned the fallen angel. Azazel in response let out an awkward laugh and scratched the back of his head. Fair enough, Azazel said, not bothered or angry by how cautious they were around, as it was a natural reaction. My name is Azazel, leader of the fallen angels, and you too are, the man asked as he introduced himself, with both of the boys' eyes widened from learning who he was. Kuroka's eyes widened in response to hearing this name and were now even more on edge, as she knew this man is from his reputation. That's the leader of the fallen angels. This is really bad, the stray cat thought, with her eyes narrowed at the man, and knew that they were in a pinch. When Kuroka was reincarnated into a devil, she's been given a lecture on the 3 biblical factions. Even if a newly incarnated devil has a low chance of actually meeting the leaders of the factions, they were required to at least know who they were. And looking at the brown, blonde-haired man sitting in front of them, Kuroka felt a slight shiver of fear travel down her spine. Although the man may not look much, he was definitely powerful. As Kuroka was a yokai, a race that specializes in illusions and trickery, she knew better than to judge people by their cover. Azazel could kill her and her 2 companies in an instant if he suspects them to be a threat. Another bout of shivers went through the Nekishu at the thought. My name is izukumidoriya, sir, Midoriya said to him with a bit of hesitation, as he spoke with the leader of the Fallen Angel faction. And I'm Ren Amamiya, leader of the Power Rangers Hero Force, Ren said to the man, which made the fallen angel raise an eyebrow. Power Rangers Hero Force, Azazel said, running his chin from the name. Interesting team name you got there. Oh, thanks, Midoriya said, rubbing the back of his neck from the compliment. So why did you want to see UA? Especially since you're in the devil's territory, Ren asked him with a raised eyebrow, as gazed at Kuroka, who was by the window. They were just glad that this guy hasn't realized she is a Nekishu devil who is using her illusion magic to be in the cat form while hiding her devil essence. Ah, straight to the point, I see. Alright then, you see, I and possibly the rest of the supernatural world discovered a massive power spike of foreigner energy somewhere near this town last night, Azazel explained while making both boys flinch, realizing what he meant. It took me a while to find the source since it increases and disappears every now and then, only to end up learning that the source of the power belonged to 2 teenage human boys after witnessing your battle in Kyo, he said, giving them a friendly smile. There it was, the ball dropper. The sentence makes everyone go silent in shock or realization. Honestly, though, they should have seen it coming. Their ranger powers and technology were indeed the main reason why the Power Rangers would be the point of interest after all for the supernatural beings in this universe. So what does that have to do with us? Midoriya asked curiously. Azazel then bought a phone for them and showed the 2 what was on it. His phone showed them fighting the ranger villain grunts in the city, along with their battle against the white Pterosaurus and Rustafa, as well as their Megazord fight. That fight of Yuvan Kyo drawn in a lot of attention in only a short time. And not any good attention, mind you. Azazel started with a growing grin. To make it plain and simple, a few of our guys and gals in the supernatural world also saw your battle on the news fighting against those strange monsters that appeared out of nowhere. There were even some from the other factions who came to Kyo in person to see everything up close. He said, seeing or feeling other supernatural beings in the area when things went down in the town. Of course, Ren answered with a tiring sigh. I took it that some of them weren't pleased with what we did. Some more than others, but not me, since I found what you did was pretty damn impressive. Especially the giant monster battle scout's honor. Azazel saluted rather blithely, all while wearing a smirk on his face. Don't get me wrong, I for one don't mind it at all. But I can't say the same for some of the other factions, as revealing the supernatural world to the humans is a serious crime. But why though? Midoriya asked him with burning curiosity. Why hide yourselves from the rest of the world? Would it be better to reveal what you are to the humans of the world? With the number of regular humans that you could help, possibly even saving them from debilitating illnesses or other stuff, why hadn't anyone else done that sooner? It was still amazing to him to think that magic existed, even after all that he'd been through. Because it is forbidden to do so, kid, Azazel said as his voice and face turned into a serious expression, as this was the first time they'd seen him like this since their conversation began. The supernatural world has an unspoken rule to not interfere with the lives of humans, and to minimize exposure to them in all aspects. But why? Midoriya wondered, looking at him with a confused expression. Imagine all the good that could be done. Illness and disease healed, magic could probably make food and cure hunger, and the world would be irrevocably changed because of it. Azazel finished for him with a stern response. Frankly put, humanity as a whole is not yet ready to learn of our existence. Your kind fights over the smallest of things, from parcels of land to ideology, even thousands of years ago. Compared to then, your kind has come a long way, but it is not time yet. Think, what would happen should humanity at large be confronted with the fact the supernatural exists? Midoriya thought for a moment. Then the answer came with startling clarity. They'd panic, Midoriya said with a look of horror. Correct, Azazel said with a nod before continuing what he had to say to the boy. No offense, but humanity is one of the weakest species out there, supernaturally speaking. Though they have great potential, they lack any real innate power outside of sacred gears, or inherited powers from other supernatural beings. If they were to learn that there were countless other races out there who could destroy entire cities with ease, that many supernatural beings could simply wipe the minds of humans, that they could manipulate your leaders as they please and nobody could even verify if that happened. And sooner or later, some fool would decide to end it all. He explained, letting each word hammer into the boy's mind. They would be afraid of something they couldn't control or understand. And if they couldn't control it, they'll destroy it instead. Midoriya sadly said, getting the picture with his head hanging down. That sounds a lot like when quirks first appeared in our world during the Dark Era until everyone eventually accepted people with superpowers as the norm. Ren thought while listening to the whole conversation in silence, as he could see Azazel point out why the supernatural world was kept a secret from normal people in this universe. So out of curiosity, what happens if someone tries to expose the supernatural world to normal people? He asked him. Immediate execution, Azazel said bluntly but in a deadly serious tone that sent a feeling of dread down the two boys' spines. Hearing this made Midoriya begin to see the wider problem, a feeling of dread settling in his stomach. He understood, then. Just finding out that supernatural beings existed in this universe. How would the humans in this world react if they knew such beings existed? How would they feel if their politicians and military could be controlled by supernatural beings, that maybe even they themselves were manipulated and just didn't know? He almost felt sick as he thought about it more. If the world at large was to find out, then it wouldn't just be panic. It would be paranoia. Every friend is a potential suspect. Every leader a puppet. Every action is suspect and guided by other hands. There'd be no trust, no faith in anything. Azazel saw the look on Midoriya's face and knew his words had gotten through to the boy before speaking again. Now you see why it's forbidden. Good, though I hardly care if a human saw me in my true form. But I can't say the same for the other beings and factions in the world, Azazel said before shrugging his shoulders and drinking his beverage as his serious demeanor fades away. And it's not something to risk starting another war over. But that is beside the point why I'm here. I was wondering if I can offer you both a deal. Ren raised an eyebrow at the man before speaking up to him. What kind of deal exactly? He asked with a hint of suspicion. I want to acquire your services, Azazel said with a grin present on his face before saying more. All I want to do is learn more about your abilities, along with those giant robots. Its power is on par or possibly more powerful than a Longinus class gear, he said, shocking them. The sacred gears that have the power to even kill gods, Midoriya said with a gasp. That's right, you really know your stuff, Azazel said to him with a smirk. Why, and for what in exchange? Ren asked as his expression turned into a frown upon hearing that. He didn't want to work for anyone unless he could be sure that they were trustworthy. Why do you want to know about us anyway? It is because of the things you've done today are unlike anything that has happened before. Usually, most sacred gear users start out with their weapon or object, but a balance breaker forms pieces or a full set of armor. You both have no time limit for a balance breaker, since I know that you don't possess sacred gears. And don't even get me started on those giant mechas under your command, Azazel explained with his expression turning into excitement as he was referring to their ranger forms and Zords. And the power you two were emitting felt ancient yet limitless, like there was still more untapped potential waiting to be unleashed. It makes me wonder far you both can take that power of yours. That still doesn't answer my question about what we would get out of this. I'm still not sure what you want from us, Ren said to him with his arm crossed and gave him a glare of suspicion. We've just met and I don't know whether we can trust you. You don't know if you can trust us either. And how do we know that you won't keep your end of the deal or use what we told you for something evil? We both want very different things. I'm not sure how you envision this working out. Hearing that made Azazel smile with a gleam in his eyes. Because I'm a man of knowledge and pacifist at heart who prefers peace over war. A researcher, a scientist, an inventor, you name it, who studies scared gears and other unusual things as a personal hobby. Azazel said proudly to them with a laugh. When something grasps my attention, I need to know more. Sometimes a shot in the dark is a gateway to newfound light. If I wished to harm you, I would have done so by now. And besides, there's no telling who else noticed whatever followed you after your battle. What are you gonna do when another visitor drops by, one that's less nice? This was too sudden, too vague. Someone who's an absolute stranger wants to strike a deal with them out of the blue because of pretty curiosity. Then again, the boys had seen stranger things before since they both became Power Rangers. He's starting to remind me of Midoriya a bit when he gets into one of his muttering moods. Ren thought while looking at the man strangely. He's right though. Who knows who else was watching that fight in the area, and I doubt they'll be as nice as Azazel. Midoriya thought with a frown. Surely, there are things you want too. I think a mutual agreement would benefit us both, wouldn't you agree? Just name any price you want and I'm willing to pay handsomely for it if it's within my power of cause, Azazel said with an easy devil-may-care smile on his face. Either way, it is absolutely fascinating to study your technology and abilities. I am very curious about the strange energy you're emitting though. Would you mind if you would partake in some exercises I would devise? He said, not losing his smirk. So you want to experiment on us? Ren asked as he and the others found themselves on guard just in case. The fallen angel shook his head in response. Dear God, no. I'm not heartless or cruel at all. While I want to run experiments with you, yes, but not in the way that you think. It's just some simple exercises and power testing. Your tech fascinates me, and it makes me wonder about the abilities they possess. He explained to them. That sounds a little suspicious still, Midoriya commented, keeping a studying eye on Azazel. Relax, I mean for the best. Azazel stood up straight in his chair. Of course, there is the option of refusing if you'd like, but I could even grant you all a few favors if you do accept. He dug into his jacket again and pulled out a few sheets of paper held together by a staple. Also, if it makes you feel any better, I can always make a contract with you guys, which I will have no chance but to abide by. Ren raised an eyebrow but then looked at the sheets of paper. You would really make a contract with us? The ranger asked. I'm the guy with the big, ominous, slightly loopy organization. Your group is people with interesting, nearly unknown power and advanced technology, Azazel said, shrugging. If I want your help, there has to be some form of compensation. Think of it as an act of goodwill for a foundation of trust to be built upon. Midoriya and Kuroka quietly looked over at Ren, as the decision was up to him in the end, and see if he would make the deal with the fallen angel. Just give me a minute to think it over, Ren said to him in an assured tone. Sure, I got all the time in the world, Azazel said, leaning back in his chair and waiting for the boy's response. Ren lets out a sigh with his eyes closed before using his enhanced senses to read what was in the leader of the fallen angel's heart. The red lion says that his heart is speaking the truth and I don't feel any negative emotions or alter motives either, so it's safe to say he's telling the truth. The ranger, though, after listening to what was in the fallen angel's heart, I don't know if I should. Azazel doesn't seem like a bad person, but he's also the leader of a fallen angels, which means he must have a lot of connections in the supernatural world. So if I were to ask him about that then, he then realized something he could ask the man while opening his eyes. Azazel noticed Ren's expression and knew he was ready to give his answer. So about my proposition, will you allow me to learn about your abilities? The man asked with a smile. To study our powers and technology, right? Ren said, getting a nod from the man. Okay, we'll agree to your request. The man seemed to be happy to hear. Wonderful, Azazel said in a chipper tone, as his eyes beamed up like a kid in a candy store. However, I want to state a few ground rules before agreeing to anything, Ren added with a serious tone and expression, as he looked Azazel in the eyes. He couldn't spill every little detail about Ranger's powers and technology so easily. Just because he made a deal didn't mean he was obliged to tell Azazel everything right now until he knows the man can be trusted. Fair enough. Alright, then let's settle negotiations, Azazel said before picking up the pen waiting to be used. Ren admitted this guy was certainly prepared and got a hand of things. However, seeing as how he is willing to negotiate, he guessed this might be a chance to take advantage of the fallen angel's connections to the supernatural world. Firstly, we don't want to work for you or represent your faction. Understood. Our group is neutral when it comes to politics as we only care about protecting the people of the world from dangerous threats. So we have no intention of joining any of the factions, Ren said as Azazel wrote it down and nodded, gesturing the ranger to continue. Secondly, any information about our abilities and technology will stay between us and no one else, as I don't want our knowledge to share it with anyone. He then got another nod from the man as wrote it down on the paper. Thirdly, in exchange for giving you information about ourselves, I will like to ask one favor of you to look into something for me. When you provide me with what I want, and then I'm willing to share more about how our technology works, he said, seeing a smile grow on the man's face. And what is it you want me to look into for you? Azazel asked in curiosity, with his eyes holding a hint of recognition as he saw the serious expression on the boy's face. Ren exhaled softly, preparing himself for the favor he wanted from the fallen. I would like you to look into the Black Cat Kuroka case about her crimes for killing her former master, Ren said with a serious tone and expression. Soon the atmosphere in the room shifted tensions up as Kuroka head home shot Ren's way and looked at him in her cat illusion form with widened imperceptibly at what she just heard. Midoriya's face also had a look of curiosity and shock at what he friend was getting at with this, and Azazel was struck silent by my words, looking to the boy with an unreadable expression. Under all of their scrutiny, Ren stood strong with my head held high. This was something the boy felt he needed to do, something he wouldn't back down from no matter the fury that would fall on his head. All for the sake of reuniting Kuroka with her little sister. Kid Azazel was the one who broke the silence, as his tone was neutral but with a hit of seriousness. Do you have any idea what you're asking me? I take it you know her then, Ren said to him with an unreadable look. Only by her reputation. She's quite famous in the supernatural world for what she's done, Azazel said, folding arms on the table while his eyes were closed. The SS-class stray devil, who got drunk on her own power and killed her former devil king from the Nabrius clan in cold blood, he stated before reopening his eyes, as Kuroka growled a little from the comment. Not unheard as it happened before in the past, but Kuroka's case was a special one since her master's family was a devil clan, a part of the 72 Pillars, he said, confusing the two boys. 72 Pillars? What's that? Midoriya asked in curiosity. Powerful, pure-blooded, high-class devil clan families that pretty much govern the whole underworld. But over the years their numbers had decreased to only 32 families, while the remaining 40 families are said to be extinct. However, I've heard rumors that a few of the extinct families of the 72 Pillars are still alive and under the care of the surviving families. And your Yaokai friend master was the head of the Nabrius clan. They're a very old devil clan, with their clan trait being called Ultima Alchemia, meaning final alchemy, as the clan trait of theirs allows them to more intimately analyze and understand the world around them when applying their demonic power in terms of alchemy. This makes them great scientists, but also great magicians as well, Azazel explained to them in a serious and grave tone, which made Ren and Midoriya cringe a bit from the information given to them. Shit, no wonder she was labeled a high-ranking criminal, Ren thought as his fist balled up in frustration. But still, it doesn't make it right with what that bastard did to his peerage members like they were guinea pigs, which is why what she did was a big deal in devil society, and why everyone thinks she deserves death, Azazel stated while shrugging his shoulders. You're wrong about her, Midoriya yelled out at him. Kuroka isn't a monster that people make her out to be, he said, surprising the man with his sudden outburst. Excuse me, Azazel said with a look of confusion. From what I've heard about her, she went insane, he stated in an unnaturally serious tone. No, she didn't, Ren said in a framed tone, causing Azazel to focus more intently on his words. We know for a fact that Kuroka isn't insane because she's an acquaintance of ours and the reason why we know a bit about the supernatural world, he said, getting a nod from his friend. He's right. From what we know learned about stray devils is that they tend to attack anyone on sight, but Kuroka didn't so much as do that, which provides that she has full control of her sanity, Midoriya added in with a calmer manner. After talking with her, we learned the real reason why she killed her master. He explained his reasoning to the fallen angel, and the reason being is, the fallen angel asked with a raised brow, to protect her little sister, Ren said, making the man freeze up from the reveal. Azazel stared at them with blank eyes as he paused for a brief moment to process what he just heard. Example, Azazel demanded to know more about the manor, so they did just that. The two rangers told Azazel the actual story about what went down between Kuroka and her former master, with said Nekishu watching all of this in surprise and unable to do anything but listen as the two boys she just met defended her. After telling the story about the truth behind Kuroka's former master's death, Azazel was now seen rubbing his eyes together before speaking. experiment on a nekomata, or even nekashu. That is illegal, especially given the rarity of their kind, Azazel said, letting out a mentally exhausting sigh from what he just heard from the two rangers. If word got out about this, then the Yaokai faction would start a war against the devil faction, no doubt. He stated out loud. So Kuroka's actions prevented a war from breaking out, Midoriya muttered out loud, as his gaze turned to her, still listening to the conversation in silence. Which is even more reason for us to help clear her name. Okay, so the favor you're asking me is to provide solid proof that the black cat Kuroka is innocent, and pardoned her from her crimes, Azazel asked the boys to make sure understands. That's right, and in exchange, we're willing to tell you a bit more about ourselves, Ren said with a nod, as he saw the fallen angel flash a glamour of excitement in his eyes before speaking again. She told us that her master had some kind of journal that he recorded all of his experiments on, and it could still be back in his lab if nothing has happened to it. He explained to the leader of the fallen angel. This made Azazel hum a bit while rubbing his chin as he was deep in thought over the information the boys had given him. He didn't know what else the Rangers were capable of, but he had a clue with what he saw them do earlier. But what made him curious was Rangers' untold story and what information they possessed. Well, considering my connections in the underworld, a full-scale investigation into the matter revolving around the incident is possible. But are you sure you want to go through with this? Azazel asked, looking into the boy's eyes with a stern look. You're going to raise a lot of hell with the devils if they learn that one of their own did something like this. The devils are a very prideful race of supernatural beings, especially the pure-blooded ones and elders who make up the heads of the devil clans. He exclaimed. We're willing to take the risk no matter the cost if it's to help an innocent woman clear her name, Midoriya said, giving his answer with a serious expression. Besides, it's their own fault for creating such a messed up system that threads others like they're slaves or tools to be used and discarded when they outlive their usefulness, Ren said as his voice was filled with disgust over the evil peace system. You sure about this, kids? Chances are that Kuroka is lying to you. She could just be using you both for her personal gain, Azazel said, making the Nekashu glare at him intently with her hazel eyes as she resisted the urge to attack him on the spot. But soon Azazel regretted what he said when he noticed the scowls and hardened eyes across their faces. The tenuous grip on the Ranger's knuckles tightened as it looked like the boys were ready to lash out. If she were lying to us, then we would know it immediately, Midoriya argued back to the man with a heated glare. We have several methods to tell when a person is lying to us, and Kuroka was being completely honest to us when she told her story about her master, he said with seriousness in his voice. You see, we don't believe what the devil said about her. I only learned about that happening recently, but after looking into things a bit and thinking over it, it just doesn't sit right. Midoriya then pulled out the notebook that had Kuroka's information on it, with Azazel shared at him but doesn't comment as he continued to listen. The story said Kuroka, when drunk with power, presumably because she is incredibly talented at 3 different kinds of magic, if you count Senjutsu in the equation, and lash out at her former king, the one who gave her the bishop piece which increased her magical ability and let her use devil magic. He said, going over the information he had written down about Nekomata and the evil peace system that Kuroka told them about since talking with her. Being drunk on power means you don't exactly make rational decisions, Azazel points out as he knows how Stray's behavior is. That's true, Midoriya admitted with a nod before opening his mouth again for a counter-argument. But she made the rational decision right after that, didn't you think? Kuroka fled instead of going rampage like any other stray devil, which proves that she was in control of her own actions when she killed her master, he said before going into a thinking pose. But there are still 2 things that bother me. First, how did the investigation team reach the conclusion about Kuroka going mad with power? That's not exactly something that leaves behind evidence. To say they figured out a motive like that when she escaped capture, and there's no evidence of anything wrong, smells like a cover-up, he said, going in his muttering fits again. Ren then spoke up next, as he gave the man a sharp gaze that would even make any supernatural being in this world shake in their boots. The dark brilliance of his gaze showed that he was no mere minor. This was someone wise beyond his years, most likely forced to grow up far too early. Kuroka is not insane, Azazel. I can tell that she's perfectly in control of her mental faculties. She's just a protective older sibling, who's willing to kill her own master to defend her flesh and blood, Ren said with his arm crossed, as he gave the man a serious response to the question. I have a younger sibling too, and probably would have done the same thing myself if someone tried to hurt her like that. Someone willing to break an antiquated law to defend someone you care for doesn't sound like a bad person at all. Which is why I'm going to do everything I can to reunite Kuroka with her sister, and no one is going to stop me from doing so, he states with seriousness, making the fall silent. Midoriya just smiled proudly at his leader. Friend's determination to help someone in need, as he felt the act some way when also wants to help people in trouble. As for the Nekashu, she was looking at the Rangers in complete shock at how they were willing to help her. Hiroka marveled for a few moments as she silently looked in awe at the heroes, with her heart pounding like a drum. Azazel quietly took a good look at the boy and pondered. He stared intently at Ren's face the moment he spoke to him. He couldn't spot a single bit of fear or hesitation on the Hero Force Ranger leader's face. The only thing he saw was a burning rage fire mixed with courage, anger, righteousness, and determination shining in his dark gray eyes. The black spiky-haired boy's gaze was not that of someone who was going to sit back and let things happen. No, these eyes were challenging, fierce, and strong. All Azazel could see were the eyes of a man who would not bow down or submit to others. Someone who's willing to do anything to accomplish his goals, no matter the cost or how impossible it may seem for some. What the leader of Grigori saw made him furrow his brow in concern as Ren looked him straight in the eyes with a critical gaze he's seen many times in his long life. This kid had the eyes of a rebel that was about really to cut loose into the world. He then gazed over at Midoriya and looked into his eyes as well. What he saw was a bit different than Ren's, but at the same time, it was still there too, hiding in plain sight behind the green-haired boy's innocent face. The eyes of a hero, but on a much smaller scale than Ren's. The fallen angel's stomach churned a little as he wondered what the hell happened in these two kids' lives to make them both have eyes like that at such a young age. "So will you help us, Azazel?" Ren asked the man without missing a beat. The fallen angel blinked a few times as he was broken out of his thoughts before giving the heroes a chuckle of amusement. "Consider it done," Azazel said, giving a devilish smirk, as wrote the agreement down onto the contract. "It'll take some time to gather some evidence, but I promise you that I'll find something for you." The man finished writing down the details before he looked at the boys again. "So anything you want to add in?" he asked, making the boys think for a moment. "Anything you want to throw in, Midoriya?" Ren asked his teammate, who was deep in thought before speaking up to them. "Well, if it is already with you, Azazel, can I for information about the supernatural world and how the other factions operate in the world?" Midoriya asked with a look at the man. "You want to know more about the supernatural world and the beings reside in it?" Azazel asked with a bit of surprise in his voice. "Believe it or not, we're actually new to the whole supernatural world thing, and more information about it would be helpful for us in the future if we're going to work with you," Midoriya said with a bit of a nervous smile. "Plus, I'm interested in learning more about the other races, cultures, and history," he yelled with his eyes beaming brightly with curiosity as Azazel was bawling his eyes out for that answer. "Gahahaha. You know what, kid? You're all ready. You remind me a lot of myself when it comes to researching new things." "Gahaha," Azazel said, wheezing out while losing the battle against his laughter. "Okay, you've got yourselves a deal," he said, calming down from his laughter as the man write everything Midoriya asked for down to the details before he looked at the young heroes with a satisfying smirk before placing the pen and paper in front of them. "Now just sign right here and the contract will be officially active. You mind if we read it over first? I don't like to agree to things without reading it first," Ren said to him, with the fallen angel lazily waving the question off. "Of course, go right ahead," Azazel said with a grin as he could under them being contract. Ren then took the sheets and began to look over them, with Midoriya peeking over as well to read what was on the contract. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary as everything they asked for was written down to detail, with Azazel only wanting to know more about their abilities and technology in return. "Nothing seems to be out of the ordinary, and it looks pretty legit too," Ren said out loud as he just finished reading it and looking at the grown man. "Okay, then Azazel, we accept your deal to study us in exchange for what we asked for." He then picked up the pen and wrote his name down on it to seal the deal with the fallen. "Great," Azazel yelled out, looking excited. "Now I can make my own giant robot," he said, taking the sheets of paper back and putting them away. "But it seems like we benefit from this deal more than you," Midoriya pointed out to him. "True, but that doesn't really matter to me. Like I said before, I'm a research fanatic, especially when it comes to sacred gears. Making a deal with you Rangers is out of pure curiosity and science," Azazel said, waving it off with his eyes closed. "I don't like fighting much anymore, and I prefer peace with the other factions. Usually happens when you get older and wiser. War is young men dying and old men talking. That's what a mentor of mine said," Ren said, remembering something a ranger once said. "What's the point of more people dying? You gain an inch after a few decades if you're lucky." None of the three factions want to admit, but we're dying out. The population levels are so low that even if we all fuck like rabbits or reincarnate as many as we can, it's impossible to keep our races going. which is why we rely on humans to replenish our ranks. Basically, we're holding on for dear life, Azazel lamented. Could be worse, could be dead, Midoriya said with a light joke to brighten up the mode, eliciting a laugh from Azazel. So out of curious, how does an angel fall? He asked. Varies, but the most common reason is having impure thoughts. The second most common is having sex with a human, Azazel explained to them. Was it worth it? Ren asked him with a raised brow. Oh, fuck yeah it was, Azazel said with a grin of no regrets. So if you want to replenish your ranks, it's as simple as corrupting an angel, Midoriya said, writing down the information in his notebook. Sort of. More versatile than evil pieces, but once all the angels die out, that's it for us. No more. Beyond reproduction, Azazel said to him before changing the subject. Onto what I wanted to talk about is how do you both possess such powers without sacred gears? Ren and Midoriya gazed at one for a moment, with them looking at the fallen as if they were going to tell Azazel a bit about their powers. In response to the question, Ren used his master morpher to pull out a USB flash drive that contains Ranger history and about their world on it, then showed the fallen angel it. This flash drive holds all the answers to your questions about us, as saying it in public is too risky, Ren said as he held out the item to the man. Azazel then reached out his hand to grab the flash drive, only for Ren to pull it slightly back away from the man at the last second, which confused the fallen. But before he could say something, the ranger spoke first. Once you see what's on here, destroy it, Ren said to Azazel in a deadly serious tone. I'm only sharing this with you because of our deal. The last thing we want is for anyone else to know about this. Understand, Azazel? He said to the man. Of course, you have my world, kid, Azazel replied back with his own serious expression as he took the flash drive from the ranger's hand and put it away to watch later. Also, Azazel, I have a question of our own to ask you, Ren said to him, earning a look from the man. Are you aware of the multiverse theory? Of course I have, Azazel said with a nod and a look of interest. It's a theory suggesting that our universe, with all its hundreds of billions of galaxies and almost countless stars, spanning tens of billions of light years, may not be the only one in existence and that other realities exist beyond, he said, stopping himself from speaking any farther with his eyes slowly widening in realization at why they asked him that question. Yep, you guessed it, Midoriya said with a smile. Multiverse is a real thing, and we're not from this world but a completely different Earth, he said, watching the leader of the fallen angel because agape in utter surprise. My God in heaven, Azazel whispered, completely dumbstruck. That is unbelievable, because hearing this made the fallen almost feel dazed. I know, right, Midoriya said with a grin as he enjoyed the fallen reaction to learning that other worlds existed. The possibilities are endless, he yelled out in an enthusiastic manner as Ren chuckled a bit at his friend's behavior. What you just told me, do you have any idea what it would do to the world? What I just told it to a random person, Azazel said to them. Who'd believe you? Ren questions him with a flatter tone. I mean, most people in your universe don't believe that the supernatural is real without any hard proof. Good point, Azazel said, as a normal person wouldn't believe this so easily without solid evidence. But come on, though, there's so much weird shit that happens. Why wouldn't they? He couldn't help but ask. People will believe what they want to believe, and they'll weigh what effect it would have on their personal lives. Aliens from a faraway planet or being from another reality. First, you'd have to get them to believe that, then you'd have to have them sustain belief in that. So what if billions of light years away or in another universe, there's a place where a weapon like ours is constructed? What can the people do about it? What can governments, corporations, devils, angels, or fallen angels do about it? Ren exclaimed wisely to the fallen angel in a calm but serious manner as the man silently took in every word from the boy. They can't travel that distance, even with their extended lifespans. They can't use our morphers because it simply won't obey them. It's not like they can open a magic circle to a place that's in constant travel through space or to a different world in the multiverse, that they have no indication of where even its general location is. But, say you get them to believe that, so what? He pointed out with his arms folded. It won't affect day-to-day life, except now they might have some hope of a future where that bridge is crossed. But just as many are going to be afraid, are we next? Are the big bad aliens and monsters going to come for us now? After all, why haven't devils, angels, and fallen angels made their presence known to the world yet? Fear of persecution, fear of changes across the human landscape. I mean, there are 7 billion of them. Sure, with powers, the 3 factions, along with the rest of the supernatural world, could do some damage, but against 7 fucking billion. No, it'd be a slaughterhouse. What would the revelation of the three factions or aliens do to the religious beliefs of nations? Maybe the economics and political structure won't change quickly, but the religious and philosophical and cultural structures, he asked, with being Azazel speechless as he had no response to the ranger's question. Finally, the fallen angel found the ability to speak again. You bring up some very good points. I'm gonna have to do some digging as well. I never expected this to be your answer, to be honest. I thought you two had some artificial weapons. But real, honest-to-goodness alien technology, God. Azazel sighed while rubbing his forehead. Well, technically it's both human, alien, and a few other things, Midoriya pointed out with a smile and his left finger up. Scared? Ren asked with a teasing smile, knowing that you and every other supernatural being in your universe don't matter. Is that there are some beings out in the multiverse that even put your powers to shame? He asked. Are you kidding me? This is the greatest day of my life, Azazel said with a look of excitement. Fucking other worlds, kids. I suspected that other reality existed. But you both are living proof that there is life beyond our reality, he stated. Yeah, the universe is a big place, and it's possible that aliens do exist in this universe. I guess if this is your reaction, we can understand why the other factions might target us if word about this spreads, Midoriya said, scratching his cheek nervously. No kidding. Let's try to keep this bit under wraps for as long as we can. You could use it to your advantage, but it probably best to keep this in tight circles for now, Azazel said with a laugh, as today was an eventful one. Here I thought I had a grasp on the world, and here you two are shattering it. I haven't felt this reinvigorated for a long, long time. I think that's it for me tonight. I need some time to digest this, he said, looking forward to look what was on the flash drive tonight. We need to get going back to our universe, or else our friends and family start worrying about us, Ren said while placing cash on the table to pay for their meals, as Midoriya agreed with him. Yeah, we rather not get more attention than we already have, Midoriya said with a nod as he and Ren got up from their chairs. Fair enough. Azazel nodded his head. The fallen angel then took out a pen and paper and began to write some numbers and words on the slip of paper. This is my number and address. If you have any questions about the investigation of your black cat friend or anything else, just give me a call. Hey, even give me a call if you're just bored or in the neighborhood. We can talk about anything, he said with a friendly smile. Right, Ren said, taking the sheet of paper from the man. We'll be sure to do that, he said before turning to his friends. Ready to leave? Yeah, let's go home, Midoriya said with a nod as he was ready to leave this world before something else happens. Hiroka even nodded in her cat form before leaping into Midoriya's arms, as she had been quiet the entire conversation to not draw any attention to herself and was still a bit stunned about the deal they made with Azazel to help clear her name. See you around, Azazel, Ren said as he began to leave the cafe with Midoriya and Kuroka right behind him. Until we meet again, kids, Azazel said, waving them off while watching them leave out the door. After a few good seconds has passed, the man led back in his chair with his eyes closed and a smile before speaking once more. Quite the interesting fellows, aren't they, Volley? The tall man commented, referring to his hidden companion. Then the White Dragon Emperor suddenly made his opponents from a hidden spot in the cafe as he approached Azazel. How long did you know I was here? Volley asked, standing right behind his adopted father. The entire time since that attack on the city began, Azazel said with a smirk as he knew Volley was watching the Rangers battle from a hidden location like many of the supernatural began who came to Kuo. Besides, if I wasn't here to stop you, you would have challenged those two boys to a fight, he stated, making the young man grin with excitement. Can you blame me for not wanting to fight them? Those two are unlike any supernatural beings in our world, Volley exclaimed with his battle-hungry nature showing again. Not to mention they hail from another world, which makes fighting them even more worth it, he said, nothing bothering to hide the excitement in his voice. The idea of other worlds with so many strong beings and powerful warriors out there, undiscovered, staying hidden in the shadows. It was getting his blood pumping in anticipation and excitement just thinking about it. Yeah, it is awesome to learn that there are other worlds out there beyond our understanding. But that being said, Volley, Azazel said, turning his head to Volley as he was giving him a serious, rare expression on his face. Don't go telling anyone about what was said here or else. I've managed to earn a bit of their trust, and the last I needed is for you to mess up a potentially good business partner with the Rangers over your battle obsession habits. He spoke darkly in a deadly serious tone that even made the young boy flinch in fear. Are we clear? He loved his adopted son very much, but knew one of these days that the habit Volley has to challenge every single strong opponent he sees will be the death of him someday. I'll be sure to keep that in mind, Volley said with a bit of nervousness in his tone, as he knew that Azazel wasn't messing around this time. Volley know that Azazel rarely made threats and knew when he does, he would follow through on it. But despite the threat, Volley was still going to challenge the Rangers to a fight regardless of what Azazel said or tell his comrades about them. Great, now let's get out of here, Azazel said with his friendly personality returning as he got up from his seat. I've got some important business to attend to, he said as he couldn't wait to get back home and see what the Rangers gave him. Meanwhile, after the trio left the cafe, they made it into an abandoned old building that was nearby the area and out of everyone's sight. Looks like no one is following us, Ren said looking out of a window of the second floor of the building while watching a few people walking by and the sound of sirens going off in the direction. I think we're in the clear now. He gazed over to Midoriya and Kuroka, who was still in her cat form and in the boy's arms. Everyone is probably still focused on what happened in the city, Midoriya said as he saw law enforcement vehicles driving by at high speed to Kyo to help with the aftermath of the battle. So, hey Ren, are you sure that was a good idea to tell Azazel how we are, and about the Rangers? He asked in an assured tone. In a way, yes, Ren replied with a nod. We would need information about this universe and the supernatural beings living here and how they operate. Also, we need someone like Azazel's help to prove Kuroka's innocent, he explained to his friend. I suppose you're right about that, Midoriya said as he understood that they needed someone with powerful connections to help them in getting the evidence they need to help their new friend. At least we get something out of this, he said looking forward to learning about the supernatural world in this universe. Despite everything that happened with Azazel, Ren, and Midoriya couldn't help but wonder in concern at what were two past ranger villains doing in this world and what they were after. But before they could think any further about the matter, Kuroka, who was quiet the whole time, then leaped out of Midoriya's arms and onto the floor before undoing her illusion from now facing them with a strange expression. They could see that Kuroka was looking at them in silence and an expression of admiration and disbelief. Before they could say anything, the Nekashu immediately walked up to Ren and touched foreheads with his, which threw them off guard from the unexpected action as she leaned into him the entire time now that the Yaokai woman was with them, and even giving Ren a look when he had finally backed away slightly. Kuroka, Ren spoke with a bit of confusion and uncertainty in his voice as he looked her straight in the eyes. Midoriya remained quick on the sidelines as he looked at the Nekashu with a puzzling gaze as to why she was acting like this. What you said back in the cafe with Azazel, Kuroka said as she was still playing back the conversation from earlier in her mind, and couldn't believe the words she was hearing from the boys she just met. You'd really do that for me? Why, you barely know me, she asked, grabbing onto his shirt tightly with her hands slightly shaking in worry. That's beside the point, Ren refuted firmly yet gently. You shouldn't have had to go through any of this crap, and your sister shouldn't have had to suffer the stupid repercussions for it. There was a resolute gleam in his black eyes as he regarded her. We've promised to do whatever's in our power to help clear your name, and we meant it, he said with seriousness as a red hue manifested across the black-haired Nekashu's cheeks. Midoriya nods quietly back with a smile as he felt the same way as Ren in helping Kuroka out. If you keep saying things like that, I really won't be able to hold myself back, Naya, Kuroka said with a smirk. Even if nobody else is willing to help you, I won't just abandon you, Ren declared seriously while her in the eyes. I'll even fight against the entire supernatural world if it means clearing away your crimes and reuniting you with your little sister, he declared with an unbelievable resolve in his voice, making Kuroka slightly gasp with widened eyes at his words. Her face burning and heart pounding, Kuroka decided to throw caution to the wind and strike. Moving quickly, she cupped the sides of the teenage ranger's face with her hands and brought their faces together for a passionate kiss, causing Ren's black eyes to widen from the unexpected move. The resulting kiss was simple and gentle, yet full of unspoken emotion. After a length of time that neither was really sure about, they parted. Both Ren and Kuroka had a moderate amount of scarlet adorning their cheeks, with Midoriya awkwardly looking away to the side when their lips met as he was also blushing. Ren was surprisingly quiet despite being kissed by one of the most attractive women he's ever seen in his life. That was my first kiss, Naya, the black-haired Nekashu stated almost breathlessly, her hands languidly draped around his shoulders. Her mouth formed into a genuine, happy smile that lacked any of her usual playing manners. I've decided, I do like you after all, she declared with her cheeks pink and smiling brightly. Ren, for his part, was speechless. Taking a second to regain his bearings, he found his voice. Does that mean you're planning on staying with you even after clearing my name? Yes, if you're okay with it, Kuroka confirmed. I don't mind, Ren told her as she slightly averted his gaze, still feeling rather flustered. But you do know that we live in a different universe, right? Midoriya said to her. We'll figure something out somehow, Kuroka said, shrugging her shoulders. By any chance, was that your first just now? She inquired to him. Nope, and in fact it was my fourth, Ren said to her bluntly, as she was the fourth girl he kissed. But we can have a talk about this later when my girlfriends meet you in person, he answered her, causing the Nekishu to pout for a moment before she accepts your response. But Ren, that's going to take so long. Don't you think you've earned a little reward for all you've done, Naya? Hiroka asks you as she makes a cutesy little cat noise while making her hands act like paws. I'm not helping you because I expected a reward, Kuroka. I'm doing it because it was the right thing to do. Anyone with character and heart would have done what I did if they could, Ren told her earnestly, shaking his head at her proposal. Me too, as I've always wanted to help those like a real hero. Midoriya agreed with a nod and smiled, causing her to look at them perplexed for a moment before a grin alighted on her face. Ara, I think I'm getting even more infatuated with the both of you. Especially you, Ren, Kuroka said, rubbing her finger against Ren's chest. You're so noble, so heroic, I can just see that you're a lady killer, aren't you? I bet you've got a bunch of ladies waiting for you at home. Nee. The black Nekishu asked him with a wink. Well, yeah, I guess. They're my girlfriends, and some of them I got by accident, and not intentionally, Ren said with an awkward sigh, as he see the look of sheer delight on Kuroka's face. And the same thing can be said about me too, Midoriya whispered to himself with a blush on his face, as he was still wondering how he could have gotten so many girls to like him. You dog, Ren, you're one precocious little Shota, aren't you? I knew that you'd be popular, but I didn't think you'd already be this popular. It seems I've got a lot of competition. But you and your girlfriends sharing a harem. Oh Ren, how depraved, how lewd of you. Ren, you're such a giant hentai, so I love it. That means I have a chance now, Hiroka declares in a dramatic tone, making the two boys feel a bit uncomfortable about her saying stuff out loud. Geez, Kuroka, don't put it like that. You're making me look like a playboy or something, Ren replied, somewhat embarrassed as he rubbed the back of his neck. And what's so bad about that? You're a natural playboy, Ren. I wish I could just keep you, so I could pull off a reverse Genji Monogatari, Hiroka said with a squee, distracting her mate as she pulled his deep into her bosom, stifling any response Ren may have had. I have no idea what that is, so I'll probably ask to look it up later, Ren said, pulling himself away from her chest a bit. But really, I'm going to have to wait before I make any decisions, he said with a somewhat aggrieved tone. I get it, Ren. I can admire such loyalty, especially when it comes from a cutie like you. But fine, if you won't let me have kittens with you tonight, I guess this will have to do, Hiroka states to him, giggling, and leaned forward to embrace him, resting her face in the crook of his neck with her twin tails also curled around his waist. I meant what I said. I really do like and want to stay with you. You're a good person, and made me more happy than I've been in years. And I'll continue to do so, Kuroka, Ren said to her before pulling away, and then using his morpher to open up an interdimensional portal back to their universe. Since we're done here, we should get going back to our world. Agreed, we have to get back home and tell our teammates about what happened in this world, Midoriya said as he was still thinking about what two of their enemies were doing in this world. I'm going on ahead and tell the others about what went down here. I'll see you back at school, Ren, he said, getting a nod from his leader before walking through the portal, which takes him back to his house. Now it was Kuroka and Ren left in the building alone, with them looking at one another before the ranger spoke up. I guess this is goodbye for now. Stay safe, Kuroka, Ren said to her with a tiny smile, before walking through the portal to head back home. But not before Kuroka grabbed him by his arm to stop him in place. You're not getting rid of me yet, Naya, Kuroka declared, with made the boy turn his head in her direction. I'm coming with you, she said, making the ranger raise an eyebrow at her request. Are you sure, Kuroka? Ren asked her with a somewhat curious response. But what about your sister? I'm sure she'll be fine with that grammary girl, and it's not like I'll be gone for too long anyway, Kuroka said to him before speaking again. Besides, I'm kind of interested in visiting another world. Ren thought about it for a moment before giving his answer to her. All right then, you can come. But I need to talk to my dad to see if you can stay with us for a while until we return you back home, he said, making the cat happily scream at the thought. That sounds reasonable, Kuroka said with a nod. Ren smiled as he put an arm around her waist and pulled her close. Kuroka was surprised as she suddenly found herself pressed against him. Kuroka quickly overcame the initial surprise. She smirked and replied by putting her hands on his chest and leaning in until their lips touched again for a brief moment, departing. The black Nekishu couldn't help but smile a bit wider as his hands explored her back comfortably. Ren couldn't deny that there was some level of attraction there. Kuroka was ridiculously beautiful and had a perfect figure. Her dark hair fell around her head and shoulders, strikingly contrasting with her bright hazel eyes. Her soft lips were curved into a pleasant smile. One move and they'd be locked with his. "You're lucky I like you. If any other guy tried this, I would have cut their throat by now," Hiroka said quietly with a hint of seduction as she traced a line across his neck. Finally, with some hesitation, Hiroka pushed him off slightly. She knew they had to get going soon, but wondered if going with him was the right chance. Ren noticed her hesitation and spoke up. "You can talk to me anytime you want, wherever you want," he said, pushing a strand of loose hairs behind her ear for her. Hiroka couldn't help but feel the slightest blush creeping on her cheeks yet again. This was the first time anyone did that for her. "You sure? I wouldn't want to get you into trouble because of him. Are you sure I can come with you?" Hiroka said, uncertainty in her voice. "Of course. Besides, there is someone else from another world living in our now, and she's making the most of it," Ren said to her with a grin before pulling her in for one more hug, surprising her a bit. However, the Nekishu leaned into it as much as she could and put her arms around his neck. The ranger did the same for her waist. They kept that position for a moment, reveling in each other's warmth. "You're pretty warm, you know. Cats love that." Hiroka giggled lightly to her mate. "I'm glad you think so," Ren said as he rubbed her back gently. "Thanks," Hiroka whispered in his ear as she pulled back from him. "No problem," Ren said to her with a nod. "Now shall we get going?" he asked his new girlfriend. "Okay, Naya," Hiroka shouted with a joyful tone. Ren only smiles in silence before picking up the bag with Hiroka's kimono in and entering the interdimensional portal, with Hiroka jumping on his shoulder in her cat form before the gateway closer up behind them. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 16. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.